Chapter 503. A temple that was dozens of feet tall stood in the center of the god's abode. Divine light soared into the sky, and the room was filled with the light of treasures. The dragon sculptures on the pillars were vivid and lifelike. A real dragon was entrenched in the sky while a phoenix soared in the sky. They were all very mysterious. Yi Qinghan and the others entered the temple. There was a vigorous old man sitting in the temple. A crescent moon was hanging on the wall above his head. It looked like a real moon, and it was very scary. The old man was supreme god mystic. He was looking down at the three of them. Medusa did not dare to act strangely. She disguised herself as a supreme god and hid her godhead. She did not dare to leak any of her godhead's divine power, as she was afraid of being suspected by supreme god mystic. The godhead was covered by the 5 elements, and there was a large area of dark element outside. Unless there was a big battle, no one would know that Medusa had a godhead. Moreover, it was an existence that could fight against a middle god. Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi were neither servile nor overbearing. Yi Qinghan was someone who did not even give face to the 9 remoteness master. He did not change his attitude even after being beaten so many times. How could he kneel to a lowly lower god now? So what if he was a top existence in the lower god temple? He had a teleportation life token in his hand, and he could be taken away by the 9 remoteness master at any time. Greetings, supreme god mystic, the 3 of them said in unison. However, none of them knelt down. Xian Yuanu frowned and was a little dissatisfied. These 3 were too arrogant. Supreme God Mystic looked down at the 3 of them. Perhaps because Emperor Yi was too strong, his main attention was on Emperor Yi. His eyes were bright and full of spirit, and he looked like an immortal. After a long time, Supreme God Mystic whispered, "It's actually a heavenly soul godhead that is rarely seen in 10,000 years. Its compatibility is unprecedented. Did you condense this godhead yourself, or did you refine it?" Emperor Yi was neither servile nor overbearing. He cupped his fists and said, "I gathered the power of faith of an entire plane and condensed it into a heavenly soul godhead." Yi Qinghan had already discussed this matter with Emperor Yi. Heavenly soul godheads were hard to come by in 10,000 years. Every single godhead was recorded, and it was easy to find out the identity of the godhead. But if he condensed it himself, it was impossible to find out. On the other hand, Emperor Ye's compatibility with the heavenly soul godhead was very high, and it was hard to tell if he had condensed it himself or refined it himself. Senior God Mystic nodded and looked at Emperor Yi carefully. She estimated that Emperor Ye's age was less than 1,000 years. Finally, she showed some emotion. Such a terrifying talent was rarely seen in 100,000 years. Your talent is indeed astonishing. I admit that I cannot be your teacher. If you join my Xianhui County and swear your loyalty, I can recommend you to enter the Tian-Ke Divine Academy. You will also have the chance to meet the young talents of the 3 clear divine nations. You will also have the chance to become a divine consort. Divine Sovereign Xian said in a deep voice. Emperor Yi rejected without hesitation. "I have a husband, and I don't need your help. If I join Xianhui County, I can be a guest, but there is no need to swear my loyalty. Your county has a high threshold, and I am not worthy of it." Divine Sovereign Xian raised her white eyebrows. She knew that Xianling had offended Emperor Yi. She snorted and said, "Men, call Xianling here." Emperor Yi was expressionless. He did not have a good impression of this Xianhui County. Now, he just wanted to find a place to build a sect. He wanted to make Yi Qinghan enter the divine realm as soon as possible. He wanted to be on par with Xianhui County and build his own city. Only then could the crazy sect establish itself. Soon, Xianling walked in arrogantly. But he did not expect that the moment he entered the temple, he would be forced to kneel down by Divine Sovereign Xian's aura. His crown was taken off, and his hair was disheveled. His face was full of shock. "Grandpa, you..." Xianling looked at Divine Sovereign Xian's cold expression in horror. He knew that things were not going well. In the divine abode, it seemed that those who were favored could be kicked off the altar at any time. But he did not expect that it would be his turn. Divine Sovereign Xian thought highly of Emperor Yi. Naturally, she was willing to sacrifice everything. As long as Emperor Yi joined the Divine College, he would have the chance to become the prefecture master. If he could become the prefecture master, sacrificing a grandson was nothing. Emperor Yi, my grandson is not sensible. He offended you just now. Now I will let you deal with him. I will not say anything. Divine Sovereign Xian said lightly. It was clear that the divine abode was heartless. Xianling knelt in front of Emperor Yi in horror. His whole body was trembling. Judging from Divine Sovereign Xian's tone, she had given up on him. Lord Divine Abode, I was blind and offended you. I beg you to spare my life. Xianling kept kowtowing and begging for mercy. He did not dare to look at Emperor Yi directly. Emperor Yi did not even bother to look at this kind of trash. Killing Xianling would only make the Kuang sect and the official forces of Xianyue County confront each other in the future. There was no benefit. Hence, he said, Lord Divine Abode, you don't have to do this. How can I make Lord Divine Abode and your son turn against each other? All I want is a piece of land to build my sect. If Lord Divine Abode is willing to reward me today, I will repay you generously in the future. Divine Sovereign Xian was an old fox. Naturally, he knew that he could not kill a new divine abode like Emperor Yi. Otherwise, who would dare to be loyal to Xianyue County in the future? Once the divine abode was loyal to the other 6 forces, Xianyue County would no longer belong to him. Since he could not kill Xianling, he had to help him in his hour of need. Which Futian Grotto Earth Immortal Mountain does fellow Taoist Emperor Yi like? Tell me. As long as it is possible, I will give it to you. Divine Sovereign Xian said indifferently. The Western Gorge Mountain in the southeast corner of the Xianyue Mountains. I wonder if Lord Divine Abode can accept it? Emperor Yi asked with his fists clasped. The Mystic Moon Mountain Range wasn't completely part of the Mystic Moon County's territory. It was a natural barrier between the county and the other counties. The outer perimeter naturally belonged to the Mystic Moon County. The Western Gorge Mountain Range was surrounded by mountains on 3 sides. It was easy to defend and hard to attack. There was a canyon behind it that led to the depths of the Mystic Moon Mountain Range. It was a path that many forces had to pass through to reach the Mystic Moon Mountain Range. It had always been guarded by the Mystic Moon County's official army. On one hand, they were worried that the berserk beasts in the depths of the Mystic Moon County would attack the county. On the other hand, anyone who wanted to enter the Mystic Moon Mountain Range could do so for free. It's not easy for a sect to be stationed there. Divine Sovereign Xian frowned. Obviously, he didn't want to give up this piece of meat. Moreover, what he said was true. This piece of meat was coveted by all 6 major forces. It was fine if it was in his hands. However, once it fell into Emperor Ye's hands, they would have the intention to snatch it. Emperor Yi was silent for a moment and looked at Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan naturally understood Divine Sovereign Xian's thoughts. On one hand, he didn't know if this investment was worth it. On the other hand, he was afraid that this piece of land would fall into the hands of the 6 major forces. At that time, the official situation of Xianyue County would be even worse. Lord Divine Abode, as long as you agree, we can sign an eternal alliance. Yi Qinghan stepped forward and said in a serious tone. Divine Sovereign Xian sneered and looked at Emperor Yi. How could he believe in the alliance of a great emperor? Emperor Yi said directly, he's my husband. His words are my will. If the insane sect is established, he will still be the sect master. Divine Sovereign Xian frowned. The husband of a Tianhun priest was a great emperor. What a waste. With Emperor Ye's beauty and talent, it wouldn't be a problem for her to marry into the prefecture master. Emperor Yi was already married and had missed the best path to the peak. Divine Sovereign Xian was a little disappointed. However, he didn't show any dissatisfaction. He smiled and said, "I see. I've underestimated you. To be able to gain the approval of the Tianhun priest, you must be extraordinary. Since both of you have agreed to sign an eternal alliance, I'm naturally happy." Divine Sovereign Xian paused for a moment and gave Slave Xianyue a look. Slave Xianyue understood what he meant and brought over a brush, ink, and paper. Once the alliance is formed, there's no room for regret. If you break the agreement, you'll be despised by the world. Even the divine nations will interfere. In the mythical dimension, it'll be difficult to move an inch. Divine Sovereign Xian reminded in a deep voice. Yi Qinghan naturally understood that the mythical dimension's eternal alliance was very binding. However, he didn't care about a small Xianyue county. He wanted to find the upper dimension. He didn't care about the middle dimension. As long as Divine Sovereign Xian could help him develop, he wouldn't mind handing over the entire mythical dimension to him. I need 2 copies. You and Emperor Yi will sign one each. Is that okay? Divine Sovereign Xian's eyes were like stars as he stared at Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi. He was betting that Emperor Yi would definitely be able to soar to the sky in the future. Yi Qinghan was recognized by Emperor Yi. He was definitely a terrifying existence. It didn't matter if he didn't become a divine shrine now. He would definitely shine in the future. Moreover, when he looked at Yi Qinghan, he always felt that he wasn't a good person. Yi Qinghan nodded and looked at the terms of the Eternal Alliance. It was very fair. If one party was attacked, the other party had to unconditionally participate in the battle and help the other party. If one party was promoted, the other party had to help the other party to reach the same level. This alliance seemed to be advantageous for Yi Qinghan and the others, but in reality, Divine Sovereign Xian was betting on the later stages. Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi quickly signed and sealed the contract. Divine Sovereign Xian also signed the contract and name without hesitation. The Eternal Alliance was thus formed. Xianling, I'll leave the construction of their sect palace to you. If there's even the slightest mistake, even if Emperor Yi is willing to forgive you, I won't. Divine Sovereign Xian reprimanded coldly. Yi Qinghan shook his head and said, "No need. I'll build my own sect. If Lord County God is willing to help, why don't you ask Xian Nu from your sect to help me? I have a good time with him, and we can work together." Divine Sovereign Xian was stunned and then said, "Okay. From today onwards, Xian Nu will be the commander of the Blood Moon Divine Guards and help you build your sect." Xianling was instantly thrown into the cold palace and laid on the ground. Xian Nu was overjoyed. He was so excited that he wanted to hug Yi Qinghan and kiss him. Xianlang was also full of smiles. Now that Xian Nu had become the bridge between Yi Qinghan, Emperor Yi, and the county god, he would definitely be rewarded handsomely in the future. Furthermore, as long as the Eternal Alliance was in place, Xian Nu would not fall out of favor. Yi Qinghan and the others retreated. Divine Sovereign Xian had a strange smile on her face. Slave Xianyuanu could not understand why her master, who had always been cautious, would sign the Eternal Alliance with Yi Qinghan in such a hurry. That Yi Qinghan actually has the super long-distance teleportation gold medallion. He has been holding it in his hand since he entered the Divine Palace. They are not afraid of me because they are invincible. These 2 people are not simple. From today onwards, you will personally support him and help him build his sect. Let them gain a firm foothold. Divine Sovereign Xian said excitedly. Chapter 504. Xian Nu led 1,000 Blood Moon Guards to replace the army stationed at Western Gorge Mountain. The mountain was surrounded by mountains and rivers. The environment was beautiful and the spiritual qi was strong. A large number of experts would often come out from the depths of the mountain. All of them had to pay 10% of the harvest. They were curious to see that the guards had become the bodyguards of the Xianyu County. Soon, the entire Xianyu County knew that Western Gorge Mountain had become the territory of the crazy sect. However, the payment would not change and the adventurers would be provided with supplies. The priests of the six forces came in person to congratulate Emperor Yi and to investigate the origin of the crazy sect. Divine Lord Xian was a ruthless person. How could he give this piece of meat to Emperor Yi so casually? When they learned that there were only 3 people in the crazy sect, the six forces looked at each other, not knowing what Divine Lord Xian was thinking. On the surface, the crazy sect only had 2 great emperors and 1 priest. However, this priest was not simple. His Tianhun godhead was almost 100% compatible. Ordinary priests would not dare to fight against Emperor Yi. Once their souls were injured, the priest would die. The Chun family, Shangguan family, Yi family, Sky Wolf sect, Divine Dragon sect, and Fire sect were all forces that could stand shoulder to shoulder with the official forces. They were definitely not simple characters. At this moment, they had all sent their grand elders to pay a visit, giving the Kuang sect enough face. Of course, there were many bandits near the crazy sect. Their purpose was clear. They were best at extorting money from small sects and families. If they did not pay the protection fee, they would not be able to move around here in the future. Their disciples would also suffer. Emperor Yi received the elders of various forces in the temporary barracks. Meanwhile, Yi Qinghan and Medusa began to build the sect. Even Xian Nu could not participate in the internal structure, defensive formation, and offensive formation. Everything was built by Yi Qinghan and Medusa. If they wanted to quietly break the formation, they had to make Yi Qinghan and Medusa betray the crazy sect at the same time. However, that was impossible. Medusa would not betray the crazy sect, and Yi Qinghan would not betray the crazy sect. A large number of ancient trees were cut down, but these trees were negligible compared to the entire Mystic Moon Mountain. The Blood Moon Holy Guards were only responsible for cutting down trees and guarding the canyon. They were not responsible for anything else. Yi Qinghan was very familiar with the construction of houses, which were arranged in the shape of the 8 trigrams array. With the mountain as the base, he only needed to tame a few ferocious beasts to defend the area. As for the front, it was covered by the array. If the priests wanted to attack, they would have to consider whether they could bear the cost. The people of the 6 forces negotiated some things with Emperor Yi. They agreed to some things if they could, but refused if they could not. The 6 forces did not want to offend this new sect, at least before they knew the origin of Emperor Yi. However, it was impossible for them to let the crazy sect develop peacefully. On the surface, they supported the crazy sect, but secretly they ordered their bandits to harass the crazy sect and extort money. If they did not agree to join the crazy sect, they would threaten to kill anyone who dared to join the crazy sect. Yi Qinghan and the others were busy establishing the sect and had no intention of accepting disciples. It was as if they hadn't thought of recruiting disciples, leaving the bandits with no way to deal with them. However, they didn't know that Yi Qinghan and the others simply didn't have the time to deal with them. If they were free, the bandits nearby would definitely suffer. A month later, the crazy sect was officially built. Ancient palaces appeared one after another. Most of the materials were provided by the 6 forces and Xianyue County. Except for the ancient tree, the 7 forces did not want to lose to the other forces, so the materials were of the highest quality. Yi Qinghan did not have to worry at all. A passage was left in the valley. It was about 10 feet wide and 1,000 meters deep. It was very flat and was specially reserved for adventurers. The entire valley was covered by 2 arrays. The first array covered the entire valley, and the second array covered the entire crazy sect. At the beginning of the passage, there were about 10 shops that sold necessities for clothing, food, shelter, and transportation, elixirs, weapons, and other materials that adventurers needed. Everything was in order. Everyone in Xianyue County was keeping an eye on the crazy sect, waiting to see when they would publicly recruit disciples and how they would deal with the threat of bandit. Yi Qinghan looked at the large pile of letters on the table in the main hall. They were all threats from the bandits of various forces. Some demanded hundreds of thousands of spirit crystals, some demanded millions of spirit crystals, and some even demanded divine crystals. Yi Qinghan sneered. These bandit organizations must have been premeditated. They were instructed by the major forces. Some of the bandits were clearly the private soldiers of the major forces. During the day, they would act as bandits and return to their lairs at night to hand in the loot. Although they were private soldiers, they were even crueler than real bandits. They never left anyone alive. Let's ignore them for now. My son, you and Medusa go and bring the people of the crazy sect here. It's such a long distance, so we must have the help of a large bird. Only then can we safely and quickly come back. My son, you and Medusa go into the depths of the valley and tame a divine priest-level bird. Yi Qinghan thought for a moment and said in a deep voice. Emperor Yi and Medusa shook their heads. Yi Qinghan had not become a divine priest. It was very difficult for him to deal with venerable sovereigns. It would be dangerous for him to stay here alone. It's okay. Xian Nu is stationed at the periphery. Even if someone attacks, we can resist for a while with the natural barrier and the crazy sect's protective formation. Venerable God Xian has an agreement with us. He has to help. Moreover, I have a life-saving token in my hand. Yi Qinghan said firmly. I'm relieved that you two are working together. It's decided. Don't say anything else. You two go immediately. Emperor Yi could not change Yi Qinghan's mind. He could only go into the depths of the valley with Medusa. 3 days later, a fierce battle broke out in the depths of the mountains, alarming all the divine priests in Xianyue County. In the depths of the mountains, a divine priest-level bird, the divine sparrow, was first attacked by Emperor Yi and Medusa. Then, it was influenced by the sound of the zither and finally chose to surrender. Then, it took Emperor Yi and Medusa to the sky and went straight to the divine county. As soon as Emperor Yi left, the 6 forces were ready to make a move. The high-level elders joined forces and began to discuss countermeasures. Now is the best time to take down the crazy sect. What do you think? Chen Yu, the great elder of the Chens, looked at the other 5 and asked in a low voice. As far as I know, Yi Qinghan is the backbone of the crazy sect. As long as he's dead, the crazy sect will be crippled. Then, we'll join forces to seize the Western Gorge Mountain. By then, even if Divine Lord Xian wants to take it back, he'll have to think twice. Du Zifei, the great elder of the Sirius sect, said fiercely. They believed in the wolf god and were cruel and overbearing. As long as there were benefits, they would do anything. There are many mines in the depths of the Xianyue Mountains, but they are controlled by venerable god Xian. That is the lifeline of Xianyue County. As long as we get Xixia Mountain, we will have the whole Xianyue County. The crazy sect must be eradicated. Since everyone is here today, we will all have a share. No one can leave halfway. The Divine Dragon sect said coldly. The Divine Dragon sect and the Sirius sect were the most determined because they had powerful beast tamers in their sections. They could enter the depths of the Xianyue Mountains and tame a large number of beasts. This would increase their combat power. In the past, Venerable God Xian had forbidden their beast tamers from entering the Xianyue Mountains. If the entrance of the Xianyue Mountains was taken over by them, the 2 sects would have full control. The great elder of the Yi family had been silent and did not participate in the discussion. However, now that they knew the plan, they had to participate. There was no way out. What should we do? Have you thought about it? Yi Tianfu asked faintly. Let's split into 2 groups. One group will be led by a priest of each family to take over Xixia Mountain. The 6 patriarchs will pay a visit to Venerable God Xian and delay him. The rest will be placed in the valley of the Xianyue Peak. If anyone from Xianyue County comes to support the crazy sect, we will kill them all. Du Zifei said viciously. Are we going to fight to the death with venerable god Xian? The Yi family obviously did not want to be so crazy. Yi Tianfu frowned and reminded them, at this time, all the other forces are looking down on Xianyue County. It is not good to make a move at this time. While they were discussing, Yi Qinghan was also making arrangements. As a precaution, he asked Xian Nu to mobilize all the Blood Moon Divine Guards in advance and hid Xian Lang in the army. They were stationed outside Xixia Mountain together, in the main hall of the crazy sect. Be careful these few days. Release all the eagle eyes to prevent the six forces from making a move. Yi Qinghan whispered to Xian Nu and Xian Lang. Why do you say so? With 3,000 Blood Moon Immortal Guards and 1 priest, unless there are 3 or 4 priests, they won't be able to break the defense of the Blood Moon Immortal Guards. I don't think they dare to make a big move, do they? Xian Nu asked. Yi Qinghan took out the map of Xianyue County and looked at the distribution of the 6 forces. He pursed his lips and frowned, but he was quickly calculating in his mind. If there was an accident, how could he win with the few forces and delay until Emperor Yi and Medusa returned? Interests drive people crazy. Xixia Mountain is in the hands of venerable god Xian, and the crazy sect are 2 different things. If the crazy sect is destroyed, they can shirk the responsibility and say that it was done by bandit. Then, they can kill the bandits and occupy Xixia Mountain by force. Venerable god Xian will have nothing to say. If he wants to take it back, he will have to turn against the 6 forces at the same time. If venerable god Xian can't win, he can only suffer in silence. A god's sacrifice may be very precious, but if each of the 6 major forces takes out a god's sacrifice, they will be able to gnaw us to the bone. At that time, do you still think this place can't be broken? Yi Qinghan stared at the 2 and asked. You are right. In fact, I don't understand why Father agreed to give Xixia Mountain to you so easily. This position is equivalent to half the life of Xianyue County. Xian Lang frowned and looked at Yi Qinghan, hoping to get an answer. Yi Qinghan shook his head and replied, To be honest, I didn't expect venerable god Xian to give Xixia Mountain to us so easily. I also didn't expect him to propose an eternal covenant. Did he misunderstand something? The more Yi Qinghan thought about it, the more he felt that something was wrong, but he had no clue. Chapter 505. In the mythical Bitwall, flames of war could be seen everywhere in the mythical Bitwall. Killing intent filled every corner. Sects fought with each other, prefectures fought with each other, and divine nations fought with each other. There were battlefields everywhere. Gods and prefectures would fall and prefectures would be destroyed. Only the real experts could stand proudly in the cloud. The Divine Lord looked down on all living beings and had the power to kill. Gods prostrated themselves outside the clouds, waiting to be summoned at any time. The entire mythical Bitwall was surrounded by resources and living on the edge of desperation. Only the weak, like Divine Lord Xian, hid in their homes and defended passively. The experts spent their lives in war. Yi Qinghan looked at the map. If the location of Xixia Mountain was in the hands of the experts, they could attack and defend. However, if it was in his hands, he would be besieged on all sides. Except for the natural barrier behind him, there were many powerful forces in front of him. If he was attacked from the back, Xixia Mountain could be broken. That's not right. Yi Qinghan's hair suddenly stood on end. If there was really a beast tied behind them, the front would be attacked by the 6 major forces, and the Western Gorge Mountain would fall instantly. Brother Xian Nu, seal the entrance. From today onwards, only exits are allowed. Yi Qinghan suddenly stood up and said in a deep voice. This will anger all forces in Xianyue County. Brother, please reconsider. Xian Nu frowned. Sealing the entrance meant destroying the interests of most people. At that time, the crazy faction would be besieged on all sides. Seal it for a month. Announce that the entrance will be reopened in a month and the tariff will be reduced to 80% within 3 years. Yi Qinghan said firmly. Why? This is a big income and Xianyue County values it. Xian Lang did not understand Yi Qinghan's decision and questioned at the same time. If there are beast tamers disguised as adventurers and instigated the beast tide, Xixiao Mountain could not hold on for more than 2 hours. But if there is no danger in the rear, we can hold on for 2 to 3 days, Yi Qinghan said seriously. But that's just your guess. The 6 forces will not be so crazy as to kill the Blood Moon Divine Guards. That would be equivalent to declaring war on Xianyue County. Xianyue obviously didn't think that the 6 forces would go crazy. Time will prove everything. Let's take a gamble. I also hope that they won't attack, but if we make the right bet, we'll be able to escape with our lives. Exchanging some benefits for our lives, I think it's worth it, Yi Qinghan said calmly. Having just entered the mythological plane, Yi Qinghan didn't want to eat too much in one go. He was already very satisfied with being able to take down the Western Gorge Mountain. What was left was to guard this place and gradually develop it. Xianyue and Xian Lang could not change the will of Yi Qinghan. They could only block the passage of the mystic Moon Mountain. Perhaps Yi Qinghan was really lucky. As soon as he gave the order to seal the passage, the Sky Wolf sect brought back a middle-level beast tamer from another province. It was a very unfamiliar face. Just as he was about to enter the mystic Moon Mountain Range, he died in the womb. In the mystic Moon Mountain Range, except for the entrance, there were endless mountains and dense forests. It was impossible to pass through. The gods couldn't fly over the mountain range. Otherwise, they would be killed by the strong in the depth. This was already an unwritten rule. Du Zifei of the Sky Wolf sect frowned and looked at the black-clothed spy kneeling in the hall. He said coldly, "Who announced the closing of the entrance?" "Elder, it was Yi Qinghan." He was very determined. He would rather give up 20% of the profits in 3 years to close the entrance for a month. The black-clothed spy said respectfully. "Humph." Du Zifei snorted and said to himself disdainfully, "It seems that you're really something. You can actually sense that we're going to attack, and you can even think of closing the entrance to prevent the beast tamer from launching a beast tide." At noon, in the crazy sect of the Western Gorge Mountain, Yi Qinghan left the valley with the parrot and walked toward the depths of the mystic Moon Mountain Range. "Master, don't worry. Leave this matter to me. I guarantee that they won't be able to return." The divine bird was arrogant. It rushed toward the depths of the mountain range with Yi Qinghan as fast as lightning. They met many adventurers along the way and ran wildly. The divine bird kept showing them the way until evening. When the sun set in the west, ferocious beasts kept appearing. Each of them was powerful and not much weaker than the great emperors of the human race. The key was that there were so many of them that they could be seen everywhere. Yi Qinghan frowned and asked, "Where is the thing you're looking for?" "It's right in front. It's definitely the strongest beast in the area." The divine bird pointed to an illusory valley in the distance. It was covered in white fog and looked like a fairyland. Yi Qinghan kept dodging, avoiding direct confrontations with the vicious beast. When night fell, he appeared in the valley. Waves of divine might spread out, but there was not a single bird in the surroundings. Not even the sound of insects could be heard. It was so quiet that it made people shiver. Suddenly, the divine bird let out a strange cry, which made Yi Qinghan jump in fright. "Master, you step back first. I'll talk to it about a deal." The divine bird grinned. The deal it was talking about must be the great deception technique. Hiss, the sound of a horse's neigh could be heard and the ground cracked. A handsome horse appeared in front of Yi Qinghan. It was about the height of a human and its fur was as white as snow. Its big eyes were fierce and its limbs were thick and strong. The divinity on its body was not any weaker than Xian Lang's and was even denser than Emperor Ye's. This is the heavenly Qilin mythical beast. It is related to horses by blood. Let me deal with it. The divine bird swallowed a mouthful of saliva and flew up. However, it did not dare to get too close to the heavenly Qilin mythical beast. Yi Qinghan looked at the divine bird and the horse shouting at each other. It was as if they were talking about something, but he could not understand a single word. At first, the heavenly Qilin mythical beast's attitude was very bad. It kept waving its forelimbs and crushing the mountain rocks that were as hard as iron. However, as time passed, its attitude finally softened. Gradually, the divine bird became bolder and bolder. It kept getting closer to the heavenly Qilin mythical beast, and kept talking. Yi Qinghan was trying his best to make a Hail Mary effort. Time was running out, and if they did not return, the 6 major forces would attack at any time. While Yi Qinghan was in a daze, the divine bird had already flown to the top of the mythical beast's head. The heavenly Qilin mythical beast did not resist and seemed to be thinking about something. After a while, the heavenly Qilin mythical beast nodded and agreed to the divine bird's agreement. The divine bird quickly said, "Master, the heavenly Qilin mythical beast has agreed. Come on, let's go back." Yi Qinghan carefully approached the mythical beast and realized that it did not have any intention to attack. He lightly leaped and flew onto the horse's back. Hiss, the horse neighed and raised its forelimbs. It rushed out of the valley, and the ferocious beasts in the territory started to run wildly. They followed the divine horse and galloped out. Boom, 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 roar, roar, roar. The green wolf tribe, the giant tiger tribe, the violent bear tribe, the pangolin tribe, the bird tribe, the insect tribe, the beast horde went berserk and rushed toward the Xixiao mountain. Everywhere they passed, everything was razed to the ground. The adventurers ran to the sides as if they had gone mad. Some people did not have enough time and directly climbed onto the treetops and hugged the tree trunks tightly. Their legs were trembling, and there were even some who were so scared that they wet their pants. Yi Qinghan felt as if the whole world was moving. The horse was too fast. It shuttled through the forest and constantly changed directions. It was not worried at all that it would crash into the trees or the mountains. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Yi Qinghan spent more than half a day to reach the valley, but the horse only took half an hour. This was because they were waiting for the Wan Shou army behind them. Once they reached the entrance, the divine bird said, "Stay here and guard the sect. This time, I will make sure that none of the bandits return." Yi Qinghan took a deep look at the divine bird. He did not know what method it used to persuade the celestial Qilin, but its strategy was no worse than his. He returned to the sect and closed the 4 directions formation, afraid that it would be affected by the beast horde. The celestial Qilin led countless beasts to hide in the mountains on all sides and set up an ambush. Most beasts were not intelligent and only knew how to kill. However, they had changed. With the celestial Qilin suppressing the other beasts and the divine bird commanding them, an unprecedented ambush was brewing. No one knew all this, not even Xian Nu and Xianlang. When they were 100 miles away from the Xixiao mountain, the celestial Qilin suppressed the speed of the other beasts. In order to prevent the earthquake from disturbing the front, they had been crawling forward. Yi Qinghan returned to the crazy sect and asked Xian Lang to lead 1,000 Blood Moon Divine Guards to guard the outside to attract the attention of the 6 forces. The rest of the people retreated into the sect. At night, even the moonlight seemed to have sensed the murderous intent. Hiding behind the dark clouds, the Xianyue County was completely dark. A large number of bandits gathered and marched toward the Xixiao mountain, but they did not know that they were about to enter the beast horde, an ambush launched by the powerful celestial Qilin and the divine bird. As time passed, Yi Qinghan sat cross-legged in the center of the valley and closed his eyes to recover his strength. The star-entwining vine seemed to be hungry. It waved its vines and kept hitting Yi Qinghan, hoping to get food. Yi Qinghan comforted it, "Wait a little longer. I will let you eat and drink to your heart's content." The star-entwining vine was extremely unwilling. It had not eaten for a day, which was unprecedented. It even suspected that Yi Qinghan was deliberately starving it. That's right, how could Yi Qinghan give up such a great opportunity? The star-entwining vine needed a lot of food to evolve. In this battle, he would strive to evolve it to the 5th level. If it could swallow a few godhoods, it would definitely evolve to the 5th level. Woo woo woo. At night the wind was howling. Suddenly, 6 figures appeared in the Xianyue County. The top powerhouses of the 6 forces had joined forces to visit the Xianyue County. Divine Master Xian immediately knew that something was wrong. However, she was entangled by the 6 powerhouses and did not even have time to signal Slave Xian. The army of the Xianyue County did not receive any orders. They were all stationed in the same place and did not show any signs of mobilization. Outside the Xianyue Peak, a large number of powerhouses were hiding, preparing to ambush the reinforcements of the Xianyue County. Everything was ready. A beam of light illuminated the sky and the earth. Tens of thousands of valiant bandits rushed over from all directions, and the 6 priests abruptly attacked. Xian Lang was shocked. He did not expect Yi Qinghan's guess to be true. Xian Nu's hands and feet were cold. His father alone could not stop the 6 priests. Brother Yi, what should we do? Xian Nu did not know what to do. After all, there was still a gap between him and Xianlong. Yi Qinghan's eyes were like bright stars. He stared at the cultivators who were rushing over and said in a low voice, "Open the barrier and prepare to face the enemy." "Are you crazy? We should defend." Xian Nu's hands and feet were cold. Looking at the countless bandits and the 6 priests, his eyes were full of despair. Chapter 506. Xian Lang was shocked and wanted to retreat to Mount Xixia. At this moment, Yi Qinghan led Xian Nu and the Blood Moon Divine Guards to attack. "Go back. Are you guys crazy? 6 priests, how are you going to stop us?" Xian Lang was furious and thought Yi Qinghan and Xian Nu were crazy. "Don't worry, we have reinforcements. 3,000 Blood Moon Divine Guards and I will stop one priest. Xian Shangren, please stop the other one," Yi Qinghan said in a deep voice. Yi Qinghan did not care if Xian Lang agreed or not. He directly closed the sect protection formation of Xian sect, forcing the Blood Moon Divine Guards to go all out. The 6 priests pressed on and gradually approached Mount Xixia. The priests did not seem to be in a hurry to attack, as if they wanted to give the Blood Moon Divine Guards some time to seek reinforcements. Therefore, they released a strong aura to suppress the crowd. The divine bird sat on the head of the celestial Kylon and looked down at the large group of bandits at the foot of the mountain. Its eyes were shining. The horse below could not stand it any longer and wanted to crush the priests in front of it and swallow their godheads. This divine beast horse was not ordinary. It had once fought with Divine Master Xian. Unfortunately, Divine Master Xian did not conquer it, but retreated in embarrassment. A large group of ferocious beasts also could not stand it any longer. They were all over the mountain, but they were as quiet as giant stones. Under the dim sky, no one paid attention to them. If Yi Qinghan did not know they were on the mountain, he would not have noticed them. Moreover, no one would have thought that a large group of ferocious beasts would ambush them quietly. Boom, 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 tens of thousands of bandits completely surrounded the Blood Moon Divine Guards. Most of them were smiling evilly, but they did not know that they were about to die. Even if they could kill the Blood Moon Divine Guards and eliminate Yi Qinghan, they were destined to be sacrificed by the 6 forces. None of them would be left alive. They would be killed by the 6 priests. Hiss, hiss, hiss. The celestial Qilin divine beast let out a long neigh, and a pair of snow-white wings sprouted from its back. It took the initiative to attack the priest. Its speed was as fast as lightning, or perhaps even faster than lightning. Its front legs viciously stomped on one of the priests, shattering the godly body and staining the ground with blood. The priest screamed in pain, and his godhead tried to escape, but it was crushed by the celestial Chilan divine beast and was swallowed into its stomach. One of the 6 god worshippers died in an instant, which gave the other god worshippers a scare. It's the celestial Chilan. Why is this guy here? Boom, boom, boom. Countless ferocious beasts rolled down the mountain and rushed toward the bandits, completely shocking the bandits and the priests. Roar. Screech. The beasts and birds let out shrill roars, and all kinds of unknown beasts and birds instantly surrounded the bandits. Everyone was dumbfounded. The bandits were dumbfounded because they were ambushing the Blood Moon Divine Guards. How did it turn into being ambushed by vicious beasts? Since when did berserk beasts have such high IQ? They actually knew how to ambush. The god worshippers were dumbfounded because divine beasts at the god worshipper level would not leave the mountain range. Just like human gods worshippers, they were not allowed to leave the mystic moon mountain range, unless they were really powerful and could ignore the rules. The Blood Moon Divine Guards were even more confused. So many ferocious beasts were hiding nearby. Why didn't they know about it? The ferocious beasts had already lost their patience and were crazily attacking the bandits. Hundreds of them surrounded a powerful bandit, and some were even surrounded by a flock of birds. They were directly dragged into the sky and thrown to the ground. Bang, bang, bang! Tragic crashing sounds and screams broke the silence of the night. The giant tiger charged, and the fierce bear stood up like a mountain, ignoring the great emperor's attack. One punch was enough to kill a lot of people. No! The bandits panicked and tried to find a way out, but the mountain was full of ferocious beasts, and there was no way to escape. To make matters worse, Yi Qinghan threw out the star-twining vine. It stretched out tens of thousands of vines after smelling the exuberant vitality. Each vine was equivalent to a venerable sovereign, and whoever was entangled by it would die. The vines were indestructible, ignoring defense and penetrating the body, wantonly robbing vitality and vitality. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The vines attacked every living thing they saw, be it ferocious beasts or bandits. In short, they were not picky eaters. The celestial Chilan did not care about these things. Its target was the god worshippers. Its white wings flapped lightly, and it swept past a god worshipper and kicked him away. It looked very powerful, but it relied on its speed and explosive power. This kick made the god worshipper's face contort. His body was torn apart, and his godhead was almost shattered. Its speed was unavoidable. It was faster than the wind god worshipper, let alone the few god worshippers in front of it. That god worshipper was unable to breathe and felt dizzy. His body was covered in wounds and blood. The celestial Chilan wanted to take the opportunity to kill another god worshipper, but it was stopped by the other 4 god worshippers. Just when the god priest thought that he had a chance to heal his wounds, Xian Lang burst into action and slashed his godly body apart. The star-twining vine gave up on all the bandits and coiled its tendrils around the god priest's limbs and head. His waist and neck were all entangled by the tendrils, and the tendrils pierced into his body through his wound. Even his godhead was pulled out. The god worshipper screamed and struggled madly. His godhead burst out with terrifying divine power, trying to tear the countless vines apart. The vines were decaying, but more and more vines wrapped around the godhead. The godhead was unable to break free from the star-twining vine's restraint. The shattered divine body was devoured by the star-twining vine, and the vines grew stronger and stronger. From 10,000 vines there were now more than 100,000 vines. Furthermore, they were thick and long, and their toughness was even more terrifying. Monarch weapons could only leave a small mark on them. Xian Lang rushed toward a god worshipper, hoping to relieve some pressure on the celestial Chilan. The aftermath of the god worshipper's battle shattered the ferocious beasts and bandits. The Blood Moon Divine Guards joined hands to block outside the enchantment. Yi Qinghan summoned frenzy and charged into the battle. He swept his saber across the bandits and ferocious beasts. None of the great sovereigns could withstand his attack, and even the venerable sovereigns were pushed back. Once they faced frenzy head-on, their bodies would definitely be shattered. Boom, boom, boom. The saber light killed all the ferocious beasts and bandits around. Frenzy was constantly waving in the air, removing impurities and absorbing the divinity of the mythical plane to refine his body. Yi Qinghan became braver as he fought. His face was cold, and he killed without blinking. He was absolutely ruthless. The Blood Moon Divine Guards had killed countless people, but they had never thought that there would be such a heartless person in the world. No matter how the enemy begged for mercy, he just raised his saber and slashed. Xian Nu was shocked. He had never thought that there would be such a powerful great sovereign in the world. He could defeat all the venerable sovereigns. This was a battle between realms. If he entered the realm of venerable sovereigns, would he be able to escape from the god worshippers? No wonder the commandery deity values Emperor Yi so much. If Emperor Ye's combat strength was as horrible as his, he might even be on par with the commandery deity. Xian Nu trembled. He calmed down and entered a state of defense. He would not allow the bandits to break through the western canyon mountain. The bandits were in a desperate situation. Half of the tens of thousands of people were killed in an instant. The only way to survive was to kill all the Blood Moon Divine Guards and enter the Crazy Sect or the mysterious Moon Mountain Range. The bandits began to attack the Blood Moon Divine Guard. 20 to 30,000 people attacked at the same time. The Blood Moon Divine Guards coughed up blood and retreated. The difference in numbers was too great. Stop them. Block the passage even if you have to die. Yi Qinghan had given a death order, so Xian Nu dared not take it lightly. Countless ferocious beasts attacked the bandits from both sides. The bandits suffered heavy casualties. A god worshipper rushed into the battlefield and killed thousands of ferocious beasts with one strike. He then pounced on the star-twining vine, trying to save the godhead of the god worshipper. The sharp divine weapon was invincible. It shattered the void. The star-twining vine was shocked and wanted to let go of the godhead. But Yi Qinghan was not willing to let it go. Big bang. 5 elements unite. Swoosh. Yi Qinghan's momentum was extremely domineering. Yi Qinghan was definitely the only one who dared to stop a god worshipper in the realm of Great Emperor. The saber radiance split the sky and crashed into the divine sword that was coming at him. The divine sword was invincible, and it clashed with Zhong Kuang's 5 elements battle dragon. The 5 elements battle dragon fought back madly, but it was crushed by Zhong Kuang's attack. Yi Qinghan twisted his waist and activated Inch Strike. He exploded with 10 times his strength to block Shen Xi's attack, but his body was sent flying hundreds of meters away and slammed into a mountain. Pooh! Yi Qinghan's 5 elements Dao body collapsed. Blood spurted out of his 7 orifices. He slid down the mountain and knelt on the ground before crashing into the mountain. The god worshipper was stopped. The star-twining vine sucked out the god worshipper's flesh and blood and fled to the back with the godhead. For a moment, even the ferocious beasts were stunned, let alone the bandits. The world was deathly silent. Everyone forgot to attack. They stared at Yi Qinghan and the Sky Wolf Sex god worshipper as if they were hallucinating. The Sky Wolf Sex god worshipper was puzzled. He looked at the divine weapon in his hand and frowned. I remember using 50% of my strength. How could it be blocked by a great emperor? Pooh! Yi Qinghan spat out another mouthful of blood essence. His eyes were red. All the bones in his body were broken and reformed. The 5 elements were restless and restless, repairing his golden body. Endless divine energy was absorbed by him. He wanted to break through to the emperor realm. The start-whining vine looked at Yi Qinghan, not knowing what to do. Yi Qinghan needed time. He could not fight anymore. Help me stall him for half an hour. Yi Qinghan sat cross-legged on the ground. He wiped the blood from the corner of his eyes. He took the initiative to control the 5 elements and began to repair his injured body. His broken bones healed quickly. They were harder than before. They were more terrifying than emperor weapons and emitted divine light. The divine energy on the surface of his body liquefied and became crystal clear. The light illuminated the surroundings. The start-whining vine did not disappoint. It did not escape. Instead, it waved hundreds of thousands of vines and attacked the god worshipper with all its might, hoping to block the attack. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, the god worshipper sneered. He wanted to kill Yi Qinghan even more. He waved the sword in his hand and instantly cut through the long river, cutting down the vines. The start-whining vine was not a match for the god worshipper. However, it was absolutely supreme in the emperor realm. It was comparable to a medium-sized army. The start-whining vine kept absorbing the divinity in the godhead. When a vine was cut down, it would immediately grow new vines. They pierced through the void and surrounded the god worshipper tightly. It did not want to win. It only wanted to stall the opponent for half an hour to buy time for Yi Qinghan to break through. The pressure grew stronger. Yi Qinghan's mental energy exploded to the extreme. He felt every meridian in his body. The spatial patterns in the sky were all absorbed. Under his divine sense, the bottleneck of the great emperor tribulation was broken. Endless true yuan was vast and mighty. The power of faith was entrenched in the sea of bitterness and turned into a soaring dragon. It was as if another universe was about to be opened. Chapter 507. The priest suppressed the start-whining vine and almost squeezed all of its vines dry. With the support of the godhead, he stopped the opponent's advance and bought some time for Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan's body shone with divine light. Although he did not have the godhead, divine power flowed through his limbs and bones, purifying his body. The bottleneck of the great emperor realm was broken. His vital core was vast and emperor qi was abundant. There was no difference between a great emperor and a venerable overlord, except that they could store a lot more emperor qi. Yi Qinghan's sea of qi almost exploded. The excess emperor qi wanted to pour out and tear the five elements Tao body apart. Ah! Yi Qinghan felt a sharp pain all over his body. He could not help but roar at the sky. His sea of qi was about to explode. His strength had reached the peak of the venerable overlord realm. At least his sea of qi could not bear any more emperor qi. If he could not break through, his body would explode sooner or later. Whoosh! Whoosh! Yi Qinghan pulled out the heavy berserk saber. Its pupils were red and dazzling in the night. Boom! Yi Qinghan crushed the mountain rock beneath his feet and pulled the star-twisting vine behind him. He stared coldly at the priest, his battle intent soaring to the heavens. He wanted to use the priest to vent his anger and emperor qi. Take this! 5 elements combine, heaven-destroying berserk saber. Yi Qinghan held the saber with both hands. His domineering aura surged into the sky. The ferocious beasts roared and the birds wailed. A large group of bandits felt cold in their hands and feet. The Blood Moon Guards were dumbfounded. They looked at Yi Qinghan as if they were looking at a real priest. They had lived in the mythical realm for so many years, but they had never seen such a terrifying venerable overlord. Moreover, he had just broken through. The elements of wind, fire, thunder, lightning, metal, wood, water, earth, and darkness gathered. A total of 9 battle dragons appeared out of thin air. The dragons roared and merged into one, forming a towering saber. Open! Yi Qinghan's veins bulged as if they were about to explode. He crushed the earth violently and his aura soared to the stars. Shen Si frowned. He mobilized all the divine power in his body and slowly slashed out with his sword. It seemed powerless, but it was actually world-shaking. Could reverse yin and yang, time and space. He didn't believe that a venerable sovereign could withstand Shen Si's attack, so he used all his strength and chose to face him head-on. The golden dragon saber condensed from the elemental laws instantly clashed with the divine weapon, emitting a sharp, ear-piercing sound. The vicious beasts frantically fled, the birds flew back to their nests, and the bandits all coughed up blood and fell to the ground. They constantly spasmed and coughed up blood. Their divine senses were scattered, and their souls were nearly extinguished. The Blood Moon Divine Guards did not have it easy either. Even though more than 3,000 of them joined hands, they could only block part of the aftershock. When the sound entered their minds, they all coughed up blood and knelt on the ground. Boom! The two divine weapons shattered the void. Yi Qinghan strangely spurted out fresh blood as he was pushed back dozens of steps by the force of the air. Every step he took left a footprint. The mountain rocks below him crumbled continuously. Stone fragments pierced through the mountain rocks and exploded high up in the sky. Rip! Yi Qinghan's emperor's robe exploded, revealing his bronze-colored skin and bulging muscles. His vigorous face revealed an arrogant and domineering aura. The battle intent in his eyes did not diminish at all. Yi Qinghan's style had always been to overwhelm his opponent with his aura before killing. So what if he was a priest? Before the first move was over, Yi Qinghan exploded again, brandishing his frenzied strike at his opponent. Boom! The priest was furious. His all-out attack did not kill Yi Qinghan, humiliating him. He exploded again, slashing his sword at the frenzied strike. If it were not for the protection of the elements and Emperor Qi, the frenzied strike would have shattered. Yi Qinghan was sent flying again, his body covered in wounds. However, Yi Qinghan was like a cockroach that could not be killed. He climbed back up after falling and continued to slash with his saber. 1 slash. 2 slashes. Yi Qinghan was sent flying again and again, smashing into the same mountain. He actually created a huge pit in the hard mountain, but he did not die. In fact, his combat strength was not affected much. Roar! Yi Qinghan's eyes widened as he let out an inhuman roar. He was like an azure dragon or a lone wolf. His entire body was bathed in a river of blood as emperor blood flowed unceasingly. His back, in particular, was a bloody mess. However, he was moving rapidly. The origin of wood was healing and the origin of metal was condensing. It was as though he wanted to condense his 5 elemental Tao body into the 5 elemental elements. The celestial wolf tribe's god priest was intimidated by Yi Qinghan's wildness, especially his eyes. They were clearly the eyes of a wolf, filled with murderous intent and overbearingness. Being stared at by those terrifying eyes made the priest tremble. After slashing out nearly 100 times, he was able to send Yi Qinghan flying every time. However, he was unable to kill Yi Qinghan. The celestial wolf race priest felt powerless. He looked across and saw that the celestial Qilin was suppressing the two priests. Xian Lang also had the upper hand. It was only a matter of time before they were defeated. Once the celestial Qilin was free, none of the 6 would be able to escape. Therefore, the celestial wolf race priest had the intention to retreat. Seeing that Yi Qinghan wanted to continue pouncing on him, he did not want to be held back. He attacked furiously as his sword tore through the void and ruthlessly stabbed at Yi Qinghan's throat. Swoosh! The heavy frenzy slashed straight at the divine artifact's sword tip. The heavy frenzy was broken once again. This time, the 5 elemental Tao and Yi Qinghan's Emperor Qi failed to protect it. Boom! The heavy frenzy saber pierced into the mountain. Yi Qinghan's body was like a kite with a broken string as he was smashed into the pit he had created. The mountain shook and nearly buried him alive in the ruins. Swoosh! Swoosh! The start-whining vine recovered a portion of its combat strength and erupted once again. It interfered with the priest's continued attack on Yi Qinghan. Just as Yi Qinghan was sent flying, a golden beam shot out from his body. The multicolored snake wrapped around the priest but was unable to tear through his defenses. It could only wander around his body and look for an opportunity to stare at his throat. The priest was alarmed. He had never seen such a fast snake. He constantly slapped at the multicolored snake, hoping to shake it off or suppress it. However, he was unable to hit the multicolored snake even though he managed to hit himself. Now, the multicolored snake had already advanced to the pinnacle of the 9th grade. As long as there was enough time, it was not impossible for it to grow into a 10th grade divine beast. It did not seek credit by entangling the priest. All it wanted was to delay the priest and buy some time for Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan rushed out of the cave again. The priest could not help but roar at the sky as though he had seen a ghost. He had never seen such a resilient person. Every bone in his body had been smashed to pieces by him, but he was able to quickly recover. With the support of 2 ferocious beasts, he was unable to do anything to Yi Qinghan. At the very least, he was unable to do anything to him today. Therefore, the priest of the Celestial Wolf clan turned and fled, ignoring the other 3 priests. When the 3 priests saw Wolf Shursan of the Celestial Wolf clan escape, they immediately panicked. In a moment of carelessness, one of them was kicked by the Celestial Qilin, causing his head to explode. The Celestial Qilin swallowed the godhead in one gulp. The Celestial Qilin immediately turned ferocious as it crazily stomped on another priest. It was the Yi family's priest. The Yi family's priest was like a ghost. His speed was extremely fast, especially with his strange movement technique. He was always able to dodge the Celestial Qilin's attack. Until now, he had not suffered any serious injuries. When he saw Wolf Shursan escape, he turned around and fled as well. When the Celestial Qilin saw that the other party had fled, it did not chase after them. Instead, it joined forces with Xian Lang to kill the last priest. The priest was already at a disadvantage. When the Celestial Qilin joined the fray, he was immediately knocked to the ground by a hoof. Then, Xian Lang pierced his throat with his sword and nailed him to the ground. His godhead was about to break out of his body and escape, but it was ruthlessly stomped on by the Celestial Qilin's front hoof. The priest only had time to let out a muffled groan before he fainted. His godhead was directly stomped into the ground. Xian Lang's eyes were filled with greed. However, he was intimidated by the Celestial Qilin and did not dare to move recklessly. How could the Celestial Qilin let others have what it had obtained? It wished it could suppress Xian Lang as well. The greedy gaze caused Xian Lang's body to tremble. He quickly retreated. The Western Canyon mountain was covered in blood. There were countless corpses of ferocious beasts. Most of them were killed by the aftershocks of the Celestial Qilin's attack. Some of them were still heavily injured and did not die completely. The star-twisting vine extended countless vines and swept away all the corpses. The Celestial Qilin cared about the godhead. As for the corpses of the bandits and ferocious beasts, it did not care about them at all. After obtaining the last godhead, it was still thinking about the godhead in the main body of the star-twisting vine. The star-twisting vine waved its vines as a warning and kept a distance from the Celestial Qilin. Only then did the divine bird dare to fly down from the mountain peak. It looked at Yi Qinghan with a smug expression and said, "Master, I will do what I promised. I will not go wrong." Yi Qinghan exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. Looking at the rivers of blood and piles of white bones on the Western Canyon mountain, he was very satisfied and gave the divine bird a compliment. The most important thing now was to send this big Buddha away. Otherwise, if it went berserk again, it might just trample Xian Lang and the rest of them to death. Yi Qinghan signaled the divine bird, but the divine bird pretended not to see it. It chatted with the Celestial Qilin for a while. Yi Qinghan did not know how it managed to trick the Celestial Qilin. The Celestial Qilin actually ran over to Yi Qinghan and rubbed against him a few times. It then submitted and stayed outside the Western Canyon mountain, refusing to leave. Yi Qinghan shuddered. Thinking about how the Celestial Qilin that had just slaughtered everyone was acting coquettishly with him, He shook his head and asked telepathically, "Divine bird, what did you promise it? This thing is a bomb. It can blow us all to smithereens at any time. Didn't you see how it trampled on the celestial Qilin like it was stepping on a blade of grass?" The divine bird rolled its eyes and replied, "Now that Guangzhong is short of manpower, I am looking for helpers for you. Let me ask you, what did you promise it? Why did it agree to stay here so obediently?" Yi Qinghan frowned. If he did not handle this matter well, he would not be able to satisfy the celestial Qilin. If the celestial Qilin stomped around, the Guangzhong's sect-protecting formation would not be able to protect them. "I promised to find it a female celestial Qilin." The divine bird shrank its head and said timidly. Yi Qinghan clenched his fists, loosened them and clenched them again. He took a deep breath and said angrily, "This kind of celestial Qilin is hard to find even in 10,000 years. You may not even be able to find one in the entire mythical realm. Why did you make such a promise?" The divine bird rolled its eyes and promised solemnly, "You don't have to worry about this. I promise to tame it." Yi Qinghan felt a stinging pain all over his body, as if he had been boiled in kerosene. He did not want to worry about it anymore, so he opened the enchantment and said to Xianlang, "Senior, thank you for your help. Those who are not injured today will be compensated with 10,000 top-grade spiritual crystals. Those who are injured will be compensated with 100,000 top-grade spiritual crystals each." The Blood Moon Divine Guards were very touched. Yi Qinghan seemed to be ruthless, but he was never stingy to his brothers and teammates. Chapter 508. The Lords of the Six Forces and Divine God Xian drank one cup after another to discuss the defense of Xianyu County. Divine God Xian was restless, but the other party was obviously stalling for time, so he had to accompany them. After a whole night, the Lords of the Six Forces got up and left with smiles. Divine God Xian clenched his fist and sent a message to slave Xianyue with a serious face. He asked coldly, "Go and check if the Western Gorge Mountain has fallen." "Master, we just received a report from the Western Gorge Mountain. We killed tens of thousands of bandits and 5 lower god priests. We defeated one of them," slave Xianyue said respectfully. "What did you say? Can Xianyu's Blood Moon Divine Guards kill so many people? Or can Yi Qinghan wipe out the lower god priests alone?" Divine God Xian asked angrily. "Master, it's true. Xianlang sent a message personally. Yesterday, Xianyu moved all the Blood Moon Divine Guards out of the mansion. Xianlang also hid in the Blood Moon Divine Guards." Yi Qinghan seemed to know that the six forces were going to attack the Western Gorge Mountain from the beginning. "He made some preparations in advance," slave Xianyue replied again. Divine Supreme God Xian slowly sat down, his brows furrowed. He couldn't figure out how Yi Qinghan knew that the six forces were going to make a move. How did he manage to kill the 6 low-level god priests? Even if they were low-level god priests, Xianlang could only deal with one at most. As for the remaining 5, how did Yi Qinghan manage to kill 4 of them and defeat one of them? Swish! Divine God Xian moved 1,000 miles in one step and appeared outside the Western Gorge Mountain. Looking at the bloody Western Gorge Mountain, he could imagine how hard it was to fight for a whole night. Most of the corpses died in a strange way. Most of them had become mummies with their essences drained, as if something had taken them away. Sovereign God Xian appeared silently without alerting anyone. After looking around, she felt that Yi Qinghan was a little strange. She became even more curious and couldn't wait any longer. She directly appeared in front of everyone. Xianlang and Xianyu were shocked. Divine God Xian had not left the county god's mansion for thousands of years. Why did he suddenly appear today? "Greetings, county deity." Xianlang led the Blood Moon Divine Guards to kneel and greet him. "Get up. You've worked hard tonight. Tomorrow, we'll reward you according to your contributions. The compensation for the deceased will be doubled," Supreme God, Xian said calmly. Thank you, County God. The Blood Moon Holy Guards were overjoyed. Not many people had died that night, only 100 or so. However, in such a fierce battle, they had sacrificed so few people and received double the pension and reward. It was a great deal. Thank you, Father. Fellow Taoist, ye also comforted the Blood Moon Immortal Guards, Xian Lang replied respectfully. It's fine. That's because Yi Qinghan thinks highly of you. Just stay here and guard this place. Venerable God Mystic thought even more highly of Yi Qinghan. Someone who could be chosen by the Tianhun God Priest would definitely not be weak. With that strange teleportation gold token, he was certain that Yi Qinghan's future achievements would not lose to Emperor Yez. Venerable God Mystic grabbed Xian Nu and whispered, "Don't resist. I want to see tonight's battle." Venerable God Mystic's divine sense went directly into Xian Nu's mind to see everything that had happened in Xixia Mountain tonight. However, the more he saw, the more shocked he was. He had lived for more than 100,000 years and had seen countless elite. However, he had never seen someone like Yi Qinghan, who was like a madman. He was only in the Emperor realm and 2 spirit beasts. How did he make the beasts ambush him? Celestial Qilin didn't even want to submit to me. Why would it help him? How did he know Celestial Qilin? Venerable God Mystic was getting more and more confused. He let go of Xian Nu and said hoarsely, "Xian Nu, go to Yu Nu's mansion tomorrow and get a lower profound godhead and a profound divine skill." Xian Nu was overjoyed. He knelt down and said respectfully, "Thank you, County God." Although he was his grandson, there was no such thing as family affection in the strict hierarchy of the God clan. Venerable God Mystic treated them as family. Otherwise, they were all subordinate. Xian Nu naturally understood. "Take a rest. I'm going to talk to Yi Qinghan." Divine Lord Xian's consciousness moved, and all the mysteries of heaven and earth appeared in his eyes. He ignored the sect protecting array of the insane sect and stepped into the valley. The profound divine skill was one of the 3,000 lesser divine skills in the mythological plane. It was ranked in the middle of the 3,000 lesser divine skills. It was definitely not ordinary. After all, there were countless divine skills that were not even in the 3,000 lesser divine skills. At this moment, Yi Qinghan was meditating outside the hall. He was absorbing the spiritual qi between heaven and earth to refine his body and heal his injuries. Venerable God Mystic was powerful and could also enter the sect without the formation. However, he could not escape Yi Qinghan's perception. After all, he was the one who set up the formation. If he could not sense anyone else entering the sect, then the formation was too weak. Yi Qinghan's eyebrows twitched. However, he did not open his eyes. Divine light shone from his body and divinity filled the surroundings. A golden ocean of faith appeared in his sea of consciousness. It kept swimming in the sea of bitterness and rushed into the depths of chaos. It wanted to open up the universe and evolve thousands of stars. Golden rain poured down and the aura of chaos filled the air. Although Yi Qinghan had not become a god, he had a trace of divine power. Venerable God Mystic's eyes widened. She could not understand where Yi Qinghan's divine power came from. This was simply against common sense. As everyone knew, divine power came from the Godhead. However, Yi Qinghan did not have a Godhead. How could he have divine power? Yi Qinghan did not care how shocked Venerable God Mystic was. This was the best time to improve. He calmed down and felt the Great Path Principle and the 5 Elements. The elemental principle became clearer and clearer. He became more proficient in controlling it. Every vein in his body could be seen clearly. Yi Qinghan had completely refined his body into a divine artifact. In the depths of his sea of consciousness, the metal origin stirred up the power of faith. It kept spinning as it wanted to create a godhead. The metal origin godhead. Yi Qinghan's heart was big and wild. What he wanted was not just a godhead. He wanted the corresponding origin law godhead. He wanted to have all of them. Otherwise, how could he live up to his 5 elements Tao body? Yi Qinghan had comprehended too many origin laws and great paths. However, only the 5 elements had the chance to condense a godhead. Only they had been comprehended to the great success realm. The metal origin was the first origin law that Yi Qinghan had comprehended. Naturally, he was the most familiar with it. With the metal origin as a medium and the power of faith as support, he gradually solidified a godhead. However, in order to condense a godhead, he needed an endless amount of power of faith. Without the power of faith, he could only become a god by stealing the godheads of others. However, that would greatly reduce his strength. As Yi Qinghan condensed a godhead, his understanding of the godhead became clearer. The godhead was the medium that stored the godhead and the soul. Firstly, it was much, much stronger than the sea of energy. At the very least, it would not be destroyed by the godhead. Therefore, condensing a godhead was a long process that consumed a lot of faith. If one wanted to become the strongest in the same realm, they had to condense the godhead to the most perfect state. Yi Qinghan had the power of faith from all the living beings in the endless planes as a foundation. The power of faith was almost insufficient. The sea of faith was gradually drying up. However, it did not take long for it to continuously produce new power of faith. The godhead was slowly gathering drop by drop. The metal origin was constantly tearing apart and reforming. The metal origin was crazily revolving, and the metal origin law attached itself to the godhead, causing it to become even more majestic. Whoosh! There was a burst of golden light that rushed into the clouds. Senior Divine God Mystic was so shocked that she could not speak for a long time. She wanted to get closer to see what kind of monster Yi Qinghan was. The celestial Qilin seemed to be very loyal. When Senior Divine God Mystic approached, it immediately rushed over and waved its forelimbs, wanting to kick her. Senior Divine God Mystic and the Celestial Qilin had fought before, but there was no clear winner. At this moment, she could not help but frown. The Divine Bird flew to the top of the Celestial Qilin's head and glared at Senior Divine God Mystic. It shouted, "Senior Divine God Mystic, why did you come in without an invitation? Don't you know that this is the inner sect of the insane sect?" Senior Divine God Mystic's eyes widened. She looked at the Divine Bird and said, "Devouring Spirit Godly Eagle? Isn't it extinct? You're the one that's extinct. This Divine Bird is destined to be the Divine Emperor of all beasts. I'm the one that unifies all the races in the world. How could I be extinct?" The Divine Bird scolded angrily. Senior Divine God Mystic was speechless. After living for so many years, no one had dared to scold her like this, let alone a bird. However, when she thought about this Divine Bird, she did not take it to heart. She suppressed her anger and said in a low voice, "I'm just worried about the Western Gorge Mountain. I'm here to take a look. Devouring Spirit Godly Eagle, you're not giving me any face. Aren't you afraid that I'll be angry and suppress you?" Hiss, hiss, hiss. The horse neighed and waved its forelegs. It stomped on the ground and the Western Gorge Mountain was almost crushed. Senior Divine God Mystic took a step back and looked at Yi Qinghan cautiously. She knew that there were 2 divine beasts in his body. Although she was not sure what kind of ferocious beast the colorful snake was, she knew about the star-twining vine. If this thing were to become a divine shrine, there would be less than 5 lower divine shrines in the entire mythical realm who could defeat it. The star-twining vine was hiding in Yi Qinghan's sea of consciousness. It was desperately absorbing the divine power in the Godhead. Even the soul in the Godhead was devoured by it. The entire Godhead was only enough for it to eat for one night. At this moment, it greedily fell into a deep sleep, but there were no signs of a breakthrough. However, the star-twining vine had grown to more than 500,000 vines. Its combat strength had more than doubled. With its combat strength alone, it was enough to defeat the Blood Moon Divine Guards. Yi Qinghan was still condensing the Godhead. There was a rough model of the Gold Origin Godhead. It was filled with the precepts of the Tao. The Gold Origin quintessence was especially prominent. It illuminated his body with a golden color as if he was illuminated by the Buddha's light. The divine power was getting stronger. Yi Qinghan had condensed the Godhead before he became a divine shrine. Senior Divine God Mystic could not help but take a few steps back. The Godhead was attached to the sea of consciousness and hung in the 9 heavens. Chapter 509. His eyes were as vast as the ocean. Divine light fluctuated, boundless and deep. It had only been a month. Seeing Divine Lord Xian again wasn't particularly powerless. Yi, fellow Taoist, congratulations. Divine Lord Mystic was slightly startled and even changed the way he addressed Yi Futian. Yi Qinghan bowed slightly and cupped his fist. Greetings, Divine Lord Mystic. I didn't know you were coming. Sorry for not coming out to meet you. Divine Lord Mystic's mouth twitched slightly as he said in a hoarse voice, "It was this old man who trespassed on the insane sect. Don't take it to heart, fellow Taoist Yi. I was just too worried about your safety." Today, Yi Qinghan was no longer the great emperor. Not only had he stepped into the emperor realm, but he had also broken through the legends of the past by condensing a divine lattice at the emperor realm. With Divine Lord Mystic's knowledge, this was the first time he had seen such a scene. Perhaps the Divine Kingdom's prince or the direct descendants of the various palace masters had such ability, but he had never seen it before. Therefore, he wanted to be on good terms with Yi Qinghan and put him in an equal position. Yi Qinghan obviously understood the change in Divine Lord Mystic's attitude, but he did not expose him. He smiled and said, "Thank you for your concern, Divine Lord Mystic. Although the battle last night did not hurt the 6 major forces, it was enough to make them suffer for a while. Ha ha, speaking of which, this old man wants to thank you. Their private army of bandits is a very strong army when they wear the military uniform, but they are bandits when they take off the military uniform. They are very difficult to catch. Yesterday they were all captured by you. It was really satisfying." Supreme God Xian laughed. Yi Qinghan and Divine Lord Mystic chatted for a while, then invited him into the inner hall. Divine Lord Mystic had been focusing on the divine beast Celestial Qilin. He had spent a lot of effort on this divine beast Celestial Qilin, but he could not subdue it. Yi Qinghan had only been here for less than a month. How did he do it? Divine Lord Mystic kept talking about the divine beast Celestial Qilin, but Yi Qinghan avoided the topic. He had no choice but to ask frankly, "Fellow Taoist Yi, did you know the divine beast Celestial Qilin before? Why did it help you last night?" Yi Qinghan smiled. This matter could not be hidden from Senior God Profound. If he lied now, there would be a gap in the future. He said, "I've never seen it before. Moreover, I'm not a beast tamer. It's just that my spirit pet, the spirit-devouring godly eagle, met it happily, so I pulled it over to help out." Yi Qinghan obviously could not tell Divine Sovereign Mystic that the heavenly Qilin was tricked by the heavenly bird with an unfulfilled promise. The corners of Supreme God Xian's mouth twitched. He had spent so much effort, but it turned out that he wasn't as good as the spirit-devouring godly eagle's eloquence. He couldn't help but sigh. "I'm still not fated with the Celestial Qilin. Congratulations to fellow Taoist Yi for gaining a new arm. This Celestial Qilin is a divine beast that grows on its own. It's now at the 10th stage, so it's not impossible for it to reach the 11th or even 12th stage. In the entire Tian Ke Divine Nation, there might only be one left. This old man knew that it was in the Mystic Moon Mountain Range, but I kept my mouth shut. Otherwise, it would have been captured by the Divine Nation long ago." Yi Qinghan nodded. However, he understood that the celestial Qilin wasn't something he could control. If he angered it, it would definitely crush him with a single hoof. In the Great Hall, the two were silent for a while before Supreme God Xian took the initiative to speak. Fellow Taoist, you've just condensed your godhead, so don't be in a rush to condense your godhead. Instead, you should focus on condensing your godhead into its strongest state. The more power of faith you have, the stronger the godhead you condense. Moreover, it's profound, so fellow Taoist should focus on comprehending it thoroughly. This old man personally suggests that you go into seclusion for 100 years to comprehend it properly. This old man knows very little about the metal origin godhead that you cultivate, but I once collected an iron scroll of divine arts regarding the metal origin godhead. In it, there are some offensive techniques and explanations regarding the metal origin godhead. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed. To him, this treasure was definitely much more valuable than the divine crystals. What he lacked was secret techniques and knowledge regarding the godhead. With that iron scroll of divine arts, he would be able to fully comprehend the godhead in a short period of time. Whoosh! Supreme God Xian wasn't stingy and didn't take the opportunity to ask for more. He directly took out a golden iron scroll and handed it to Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath. This favor was too big for him to ignore. Fellow Taoist, thank you for your support. Today's favor, I'll give you mountains and rivers in the future, Yi Qinghan said in a deep voice. Supreme God Xian was waiting for these words. No matter how far Yi Qinghan would go in the future, today's favor was enough for him to repay for the rest of his life. The premise was that he couldn't let Yi Qinghan down. Otherwise, today's investment would be wasted. Supreme God Xian stood up and looked at Yi Qinghan. Then this old man will rely on fellow Taoist Yi. I won't disturb you any further and will take my leave now. From today onwards, I will send more people to guard the entrance of Western Gorge Mountain until fellow Taoist Emperor Yi returns. Yi Qinghan didn't ask him to stay. He couldn't wait to go into seclusion to comprehend the mysteries of the metal origin divine spark. After sending Supreme God Xian off, Yi Qinghan left everything to the divine bird and went into seclusion in the inner sect. At this moment, Emperor Yi and Medusa appeared in the endless plains. The divine bird was left at the entrance of the Forbidden Land. The two of them went straight to the insane sect. Suddenly, dark clouds rolled in the sky and heavenly lightning tore through the void, as if it was going to destroy the mountains and rivers. Ever since Emperor Yi became a god, the heavenly Tao's recognition of the great emperors had been loosened. There was no such lightning tribulation. The person who triggered the lightning tribulation today must be a terrifying existence. Emperor Yi was shocked when he realized that the lightning tribulation was targeting Xiao Zhanxing. He couldn't help but go straight to Xiao Zhanxing. On Xiao Zhanxing, a vigorous young man exuded the majesty of a great emperor. Although he hadn't become a great emperor yet, he made some great emperor's hair stand on end. His exuberant blood qi suppressed everyone. His eyes glowed with golden light and his black hair danced in the wind. Even Gu Qingyu was shocked. He didn't expect this little guy to be so shocking after being in seclusion for so long. He was none other than the little pangolin in human form. Jin Yen and Sikong Qingjun were overjoyed. This little guy finally came out of seclusion. Moreover, he triggered the heavenly Tao to be wary of him. Clearly, his future achievements were unpredictable. Boom! Little Jia stomped on the ground and rushed into the sky. He turned into a golden lightning and pounced towards the wilderness. Little Jia now had the majesty of the supreme existence of the pangolin Great Emperor. Back then, he had crippled the dead spirit Great Emperor with his dying body and killed more than 10 quasi-emperors and emperor-level undead spirit. He had won some time for the endless plains and won the respect of the people. Emperor Yi met Little Jia halfway and was very surprised. Little Jia was very respectful to Emperor Yi. He bowed and said, "Hello, Auntie. I'll go through the tribulation first. I'll come back to greet you later." Emperor Yi smiled and said with satisfaction, "Go quickly. I'll watch over you." The dark clouds in the sky became thicker and thicker. The heavenly Tao roared and the origin of the laws appeared. Little Jia had yet to prove his Tao, but he paved the way with golden light, shocking all the experts and creatures in the endless plains. The more great emperors there were, the safer the endless plains would be. The forbidden land back then caused too much damage to the endless plains. People loved to see the great emperors go through the tribulation, so they all prayed for their blessings. After knowing that little Jia was also from the arrogant sect, their faith in Yi Qinghan became even more pious. Endless faith was transmitted to Yi Qinghan's sea of consciousness through the longevity position in the temple. Boom! Little Jia had just stepped into the wilderness when a lightning tribulation tore through the heavenly river and attacked him fiercely. Little Jia's iron fist was golden, and his whole body was golden. He was stronger than Si Wuxie's golden bloodline. He punched at the lightning, but the first lightning didn't break his defense. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. More than 10 lightning bolts appeared in the second lightning tribulation. Little Jia didn't dodge and let the golden emperor body bathe in the lightning. He charged around and let the lightning refine his golden body. Emperor blood spilled, and it was as if the great Emperor Pangolin of the past had appeared again. His eyes looked down at all beings and the great Tao of heaven. Emperor Yi and Medusa looked down from the sky with surprise in their eyes. Little Jia's power seemed to have surpassed ordinary people and was about to catch up with Yi Qinghan. "This kid has a bright future. He is worth training." Medusa rarely praised. Maybe little Jia was also a divine beast in human form, so she didn't feel so conflicted. Emperor Yi nodded. Since little Jia was brought back by Jin Yan, it was very loyal to the arrogant sect. It was also very respectful to Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi. It was worth training. Divine Lotus Empress appeared quietly and attracted Medusa's attention. She turned slightly and looked at each other. Sparks flashed, and the hostility between them was strong. Divine Lotus Empress especially wanted to slap Medusa a few times. "I haven't seen you for decades and you've transformed," Medusa said lightly. "Humph!" Divine Lotus Empress snorted coldly. If it wasn't for Emperor Yi, she would have already attacked even though she knew she was no match for Medusa. Medusa smiled disdainfully. She didn't want to make things difficult for Emperor Yi, so she didn't attack. However, he did not expect that madman Xian Yan would actually appear. When he saw Medusa, he could not help but hold his head and roar in anger. He glared at Medusa in a frenzy and pulled out his sword to stab at her. In the state of a madman, he displayed his swordsmanship to its peak state. He activated the Divine Gate 13 swords to the limit. Medusa was a bit confused. She felt that this crazy person looked familiar, but she couldn't remember where she had seen him. Emperor Yi was speechless. Medusa really had a lot of enemies. Since Xian Yan was crazy, there was no need to kill him. He was also afraid that Medusa would be merciless, so he lightly shook the bracelet on his wrist. It made a crisp sound and directly entered Xian Yan's sea of consciousness. Xian Yan had a splitting headache. The blood clots in his sea of consciousness were actually shattered by Emperor Ye's melody, and his dead brain showed signs of healing. The dead flesh collapsed, and new flesh grew. It was so painful that he curled up on the ground and kept screaming. Emperor Yi seemed to have sensed it, and he didn't stop. He kept shaking the bracelet on his wrist to help Xian Yan calm down. Xian Yan's soul became clear, and the pain was unbearable. However, his understanding of the Tao and origin increased rapidly, and his cultivation level instantly reached the Emperor realm. Xian Yan had lived for countless years, and he was in existence from the immemorial era. His understanding of the Tao was originally stronger than others, and he gradually recovered his memories. he calmed down and sat cross-legged on the ground to comprehend the divinity and Tao emitted by Emperor Yi. Chapter 510. Countless stars were shattered. Little Jia's hair was disheveled as he burned his emperor blood and turned into a heaven-battling emperor. He grabbed the lightning with his hands as his body was shattered and reformed. The heavenly lightning struck for an entire day, but little Jia managed to endure it. When the heavenly tribulation dispersed, little Jia was in an incomparably sorry state, looking even more like a madman than Xian Yan. It bathed in imperial light, condensing a golden body, and the laws of the great Tao descended. An hour later, Xian Yan calmed down completely. The lightning tribulation had just calmed down, but it was triggered by him again. His battle power was definitely not weaker than any of the great emperors. He almost crushed the lightning tribulation and proved his Tao. When Xian Yan looked at Medusa again, there was no longer any hatred in his eyes. Back then, he was weaker than her, but they still had a conflict. With Medusa's strength, he was lucky that she didn't crush him. At this moment, he looked at Emperor Yi and bowed, "Thank you for helping me recover my memories." Emperor Yi shook his head and said, "I just want to resolve the grudge between you and my sister. Since you have recovered your memories, I hope you can let go of your hatred." Xian Yan looked at Medusa deeply. The higher his cultivation, the more he understood the difference between him and Medusa. If he didn't let go now, he would be beaten up sooner or later. He could only nod in agreement. "Auntie, where is Uncle Yi?" Little Jia was in tatters as he walked over from the primitive world and asked curiously, "Your Uncle Yi is in the mythical realm. I'm here to take you to the mythical realm." Emperor Yi saw that little Jia had improved a lot and smiled with satisfaction. "Great. I was just worried that I couldn't fight with my uncles. There will be many opponents in the middle realm," little Jia said excitedly. "Let's go back to the insane sect." Emperor Yi nodded and looked at Divine Lotus Empress and Xian Yan. His eyes lit up as he suggested, "Are you two interested in joining the insane sect and going to the middle realm together?" There were still quite a number of elites in the endless plains. Many of them had yet to break through to the great emperor realm, but this did not affect their future achievements. When they arrived at the middle plane, they only needed to train a little, and they would be able to fight. However, it was obvious that they had to choose those who could be trusted. Otherwise, when they arrived at the middle plane, they would have to fight with others at any time. They would also have to guard against their own people. Emperor Yi could still trust the two people in front of him, so he invited them without hesitation. Divine Lotus Empress also knew that the middle plane was very powerful. If she wanted to improve, she would have to go to the mythical plane. However, she was just a divine lotus in human form. If she was careless in the middle plane, she would have to admit that the divine herb in her mouth was the real deal. If she had the support of the insane sect, she would at least have a better chance of survival. Xian Yan looked at Emperor Yi. After all, Emperor Yi had just given him a new life. Since he had invited him, he had to give him some face. So, he could only agree. Soon, Emperor Yi invited heroes from all over the world. Now they were either emperors or emperors. They were very talented and were very suitable to join the insane sect. However, they had to pass the test first. As soon as they heard that the insane sect was going to move to the middle plane and recruit disciples, all the elites came to join them. Except for those who had a grudge against the insane sect, everyone else came. Emperor Yi was in charge of the test. It was a very simple test. It tested their feelings for the endless planes and their loyalty to the insane sect. There was no need to worry about other aspects. In terms of talent and combat power, they were not inferior to the elites of the mythical plane. After all, in this chaotic world, those who could survive and reach the peak were all people who had gone through hundreds of battles. Many people had a yearning attitude toward the insane sect. Most people's feelings for the insane sect and the endless plains were recognized. At least 50% of the experts passed the test. Emperor Yi decided to leave the 3 children and the Wang family on Owl War Star. The partners and children of the elders and deacons of the insane sect were all to stay on Owl War Star. Jian Chenxue also agreed to stay on Owl War Star to take care of the children. After all, this was their base camp. Moreover, the mythical plane was very dangerous. The insane sect had not yet established itself. If they brought everyone there, they would not even have the chance to take revenge if something happened. The Wang family was very righteous and strongly agreed with Emperor Ye's suggestion. Obviously, she did not want to bring the children to the middle plane and put them in danger. Emperor Yi, Medusa, and the others led the heroes to the imperial domain. However, the eastern wilderness flaming mountain was engulfed in flames as if it was going to ignite the entire endless plains. Roar! Huff, huff, huff! A hot wind blew in their faces. Even the great emperor could not bear such a high temperature. Emperor Yi waved his hand to block the heat and looked at the eastern wilderness with a frown. That little guy has proven his Tao. Divine Lotus Empress was overjoyed. She had a good relationship with the little golden crow. Of course, she hoped that the little golden crow had proven his Tao and become a rank 10 divine beast. Emperor Yi smiled. The little golden crow was indeed cute and had a good relationship with the insane sect. He decided to stay in the imperial domain and wait for the little golden crow to become a great emperor so that he could bring it to the middle plane. The little golden crow was covered in rank 9 flames like a fiery bird. Wherever it went, everything was melted by the high temperature. Even the divine sparrow in the Forbidden Land was a little surprised. The divine sparrow was also of the fire element. Its control of the origin of fire was definitely better than most of the fire element divine beasts. However, it did not expect that the little golden crow's control of the origin of fire had reached the peak today. The little golden crow raised its head and roared, waiting for the thunder tribulation. However, the thunder tribulation did not come. Before the dark clouds could gather, they were burned by the flames and turned into nothingness. The heavenly path could not recognize the little golden crow. It was not that it did not want to, but that it was not qualified to. It seems that it has to go to the middle plane to undergo the tribulation, Medusa whispered. Medusa whispered. She was a creature that had lived for countless years. Naturally, she knew how terrifying the golden crow was. It was a real divine beast that was comparable to the divine dragon, phoenix, and Qilin. It even surpassed those divine beasts in some aspects. Emperor Yi flew into the untainted land. He stretched out his jade-like hand and pointed his finger. The little golden crow flew dispiritedly to Emperor Ye's finger. The high temperature could not do anything to her. Sigh, I can't even pass the tribulation. Little Royal, take me to the middle plane, the golden crow said helplessly. Emperor Yi pouted and snorted. Humph, don't learn from that B**tch bird. Don't call me Little Royal. The little golden crow was like a dead pig that wasn't afraid of boiling water. It flew directly onto Emperor Ye's shoulder and said arrogantly, I'm not your husband's servant. This divine bird isn't afraid of you. Quickly take me away. Emperor Yi was speechless. The little golden crow had been led astray by the divine sparrow. He gathered everyone and took away a large number of elite. However, there were still some powerful people hiding in the endless plains. But with Jian Chenxue here, no one dared to invade the crazy sect. No one would disturb the order of the endless plains. The divine sparrow brought Emperor Yi and the others back to the middle plane and flew high. The great emperors were as common as dogs when they entered the mythical plane. Their lives were as cheap as grass, and the divine sparrow was high and mighty. Whoosh! The golden crow rolled and soared into the sky. With a powerful aura, it launched a shocking thunder tribulation. The great emperor tribulation was comparable to the thunder tribulation of the divine sparrow. The people in the deity's county thought that someone had ascended to the divine sparrow. Boom! The thunder tribulation struck. The little golden crow spat out fire from its mouth. Even the lightning was burned into nothingness. It turned into a golden sun. There was no life within 1,000 miles. Ferocious beasts fled and birds screamed. The fire spread thousands of miles away. The thunder tribulation could not do anything to it. It dispersed automatically after a while. I, the divine sparrow, will rule the world. The world will submit to me. The golden crow roared arrogantly. It was as arrogant as the divine sparrow. Emperor Ye's mouth twitched. It seemed that only the divine sparrow could deal with this thing. However, the divine sparrow was also afraid of it. It was afraid that it would get close to it because it could not withstand the heat of the little golden crow. The group flew over the mountains and forests and went straight to Xianyue County. With the divine sparrow leading the way, no ferocious beasts or birds dared to stop them. After a month, they appeared outside the Kuang sect. They found that there were many spies around. There were spies from all the major forces. The Xianyue County's official army had also increased. They surrounded the Western Gorge Mountain tightly. Emperor Yi returned with the Kuang sect. Looking at the spies around, he shook his bracelet. The sound of the bell turned into an unstoppable sound blade and blasted into the sea of consciousness of the spies. Even if they did not die, they would go crazy from the shock. Many spies fell to the ground in panic. Their ears were ringing as if they had been struck by lightning. The Blood Moon Divine Guards swarmed forward and captured the spies on the ground. Emperor Yi could not bear to kill them, but the Blood Moon Divine Guards could. Emperor Yi brought the group back to the sect and arranged for them to stay. The elders were given separate courtyards while the others stayed in the courtyard. No one felt that the accommodation was shabby. Instead, they were very excited and looked forward to life in the Middle Plain. Yi Qinghan was still in seclusion. He was eagerly comprehending the mysteries of the quintessence. The quintessence contained too many mysteries. Sometimes, even the superior gods could not understand it completely. Even if the quintessence was created by themselves, the quintessence was mainly formed by the power of faith. It was formed unconsciously. Yi Qinghan's quintessence was the same. The quintessence was a huge space. From the outside, it was only the size of a fist. However, the space inside was comparable to the size of a plane. It formed a small world of its own. It contained the precepts, Tao, and origin. It had everything. Yi Qinghan's quintessence was neither big nor small. However, his quintessence could be reshaped, or rather, it could grow. When he became a real god, he would definitely refine this quintessence. Yi Qinghan looked at the iron scroll. The few sentences written on it intrigued him. If you want your quintessence to be pure, you have to cultivate the quintessence, Tao, or precepts to the great perfection realm. For example, the quintessence of metal. Its strength depends on the quintessence's comprehension and understanding of the quintessence of metal. The deeper the comprehension, the stronger the quintessence and the greater the space inside. Rumor has it that the 3 elemental bodies of the 5 elements Tao bodies once appeared. That legendary figure condensed 3 quintessences. The divine energy stored in his body was more than 3 times that of others at the same level. He could truly sweep away all enemies and be the supreme ruler of those at the same level. Unfortunately, the more quintessences he condensed, the more energy and resources he had to expend. That peerless genius died by his own hand. Without cultivating a single quintessence to the great perfection realm, he couldn't cross the threshold of his own quintessence. He drove himself mad and finally disappeared into the endless universe, never to be seen again. Yi Qinghan licked his teeth. He didn't know how to describe that genius. His temperament was somewhat similar to his own. If he wanted to do something, he had to do it perfectly. However, Yi Qinghan wouldn't be as stubborn as that senior. He knew he couldn't accomplish something, yet he still wanted to do it. Chapter 511. Over the past month, Yi Qinghan had carefully read through the Iron Scroll, but he hadn't practiced the secret arts written on it. He didn't have much divine power left in his body to support the use of divine art. Practicing it now would be a waste of time. Knowing that Ren Huangyi had returned with the members of the Kuang sect, Yi Qinghan stood up, shook off the dust on his body, and walked out. Looking at the familiar faces, a smile finally appeared on his frosty face. Yi Qinghan informed the surrounding troops that they could withdraw, leaving only 3,000 Blood Moon Divine Guards behind. Then, through the official announcement of the establishment of the insane sect through Xianwei County, they had to go through 2 tests. They thought that there would be many applicants, but they found that those with a little talent were not willing to join the insane sect. Even some ordinary emperor-to-be were not willing to sign up, let alone take the test. On the surface, the 6 forces were congratulating the insane sect, but secretly, they were suppressing the insane sect. According to the grapevine, any small family that dared to join the insane sect would be suppressed by the 6 forces. At the very least, the young disciples who joined the sect would die, and at the very worst, their family would be implicated. Spies kept reporting that the 6 forces controlled the main passage to Xixia Mountain. Except for the adventurers of the various forces, no one else was allowed to get close to Xixia Mountain. They even said that they were helping the insane sect to defend. This was to prevent the insane sect from being attacked by bandits again. Although everyone knew that the bandit attack was led by the 6 forces, there was no evidence to prove that they were from the 6 forces. Even Divine Lord Xian could not do anything about it. Yi Qinghan and the others gathered together and looked at the map, trying to find a way to the outside world. There were a total of 5 roads in front of them. Including the road to the main city, there were 6 in total. However, it would take a lot of time to leave Xianwei County from the main city. Yi Qinghan stared at the map. The leftmost path was occupied by the Yi clan. It was close to the Xianwei Mountains and was more dangerous. Very few people took that path. The second path on the left was called the Xianwei Road. It was the main passage between the Xianwei County and the neighboring Liyue County. The path in the middle was an official road. There were 3 checkpoints in total, and it was very difficult to occupy. Which force has occupied the main checkpoint of the Xian Long Island Expressway Road? Yi Qinghan looked at Xian Nu and asked in a deep voice. The Sirius Grand Canyon is located on the Xian Long Island Expressway Road. It's a place you have to pass through. It's 800 miles southeast of the Sirius sect. It belongs to the periphery of the Sirius sect. They've always controlled that passage. The Commandery God has negotiated with them several times but failed. If we want to break through their passage, we have no other choice but to start a war. Xian Nu replied helplessly. It's 800 miles away from the Sirius sect but only 300 miles away from the Xixia Mountain. It also leads directly to the Raging Flame County. There are many villages and tribes around it. Yi Qinghan muttered. His eyes flashed fiercely as killing intent surged. He said coldly, "I'll take it." Xian Nu took a deep breath. The Sirius sect was powerful. There were a total of 9 priests, and their master was second only to Divine Master Xian. The Great Elder could also defeat a region. If the priests were divided into elementary, intermediate, advanced, and top level, the Great Elder of the Sirius sect was at least at the intermediate level, the Master of the Sirius sect was at the upper level, and Divine Master Xian was at the advanced level. As for the top-level Divine Master Xian, he could suppress the priests of the same level with a wave of his hand. He was definitely a supreme existence in the whole plane. The 6 forces are supporting each other. If you attack the Sirius sect, we can't support you. Otherwise, you'll have to face the other 5 forces. When the time comes, the Xianwei County will be in a mess and will be easily swallowed by the other cities. Xian Nu reminded in a deep voice. You don't have to do it. Yi Qinghan tapped the table with his fingertips and looked at Yan Yunbei, Yi Linchen, Zi Fei'er, and the others. They were all top assassins. Together with Medusa and Emperor Yi, they could attack the Sirius sect at night. As long as the priests were killed, the Sirius sect would be destroyed overnight. Give me all the information about the Sirius sect. Tonight, the whole army of the insane sect will be mobilized. You and the Blood Moon Guards will be responsible for guarding the Xixia Mountain. No one is allowed to get close to the protective formation. Yi Qinghan looked at Xian Nu and said. Xian Nu took all the information about the Sirius sect. When Xian Lang learned that Yi Qinghan was going to lead the insane sect to attack the Sirius sect at night, he gritted his teeth and decided to take a risk. If he could get a piece of Godhead, it would be perfect. Yi Qinghan was happy to see that Xian Lang was willing to help. However, with Xian Lang's help, Medusa would have to be careful. He could not let her expose herself. The insane sect had 3 great priests, Emperor Yi, Medusa, and Heavenly Qilin. They also had the Divine Sparrow, Yi Qinghan, and now Xian Lang. 6 against 9, it was very dangerous. This time, they could either stay put or kill all 9 great priests of the Sirius sect. When they got the Godhead, even if they divided it among the Heavenly Qilin, the Star-Twisting Vine, and Xian Nu, they would still have 6 Godheads left. The insane sect could have 6 more priests in 10 years. Yi Qinghan gathered all the top experts of the insane sect to discuss the strategy. The Sirius sect has a total of 9 great priests. The sect master is a supreme existence who secludes himself in the Sirius pavilion all year round. Medusa will use the assassination strategy to kill him in an instant. Huang is in charge of assassinating the Great Elder, and the Celestial Qilin is in charge of killing their sword-imparting elder. After eliminating the 3 strongest god priests, they still have 6 people left. We also have 5 god priests. If Medusa can kill another god priest, that would be the best outcome. If she can't, I will deal with one of them. Yi Qinghan looked at the experts in the sect and whispered, as for Medusa's identity, everyone must keep it a secret, including those who have just joined the insane sect. Everyone can just call her Yi Xian in the future. Everyone nodded. Medusa's identity was too sensitive. Problems could arise at any time. Yunbei, Linchen, Fei'er, take a group of people and assassinate the 50 emperors of the Sirius sect. When their great priests find out, we will fight. Qingyu, Qingjun, take all the outer members of the insane sect and block the Sirius sect. Kill anyone who escapes. Leave no one alive. As for the 80,000 ordinary disciples of the Sirius sect, leave them all to the Star-Twisting Vine. The inner disciples of the insane sect will be in charge of support. Yi Qinghan assigned the tasks one by one. Everyone memorized the tasks they had to do. There were not many people in the insane sect. There were less than 100 experts in total. They would not disturb the other forces if they were to act at night. After everyone was assigned their tasks, Yi Qinghan found Xian Lang alone and told him to delay a great priest. If he could kill him, his godhood would belong to Xian Lang. Xian Lang was overjoyed. Normally, he would not have many opportunities to obtain a godhood. Unless there was a great war, a godhood would not fall into the hands of an outsider. Xian Lang made up his mind to get rid of one of the priests and seize the godhood to save his life. Time passed slowly. The Sirius sect did not expect the insane sect to attack their headquarters at night. At this moment, their defenses were relaxed. The ordinary disciples did not feel the slightest sense of crisis and continued to abuse their power. In the Sirius Grand Canyon, many poor disciples wanted to join the insane sect but were rejected outside the canyon. Some were even killed by the disciples of the Sirius sect. There was no room for negotiation. As night fell, the moonlight bathed the heavenly river. The insane sect did not even inform senior god Xian about their operation. Medusa and the others took the lead and killed all the spies around. No one sent the news back to the Sirius sect. The disciples of the serious sect were still living a carefree and happy life. Rustle, rustle, rustle. The great priests did not fly. All of them moved quickly on the ground. A large group of experts approached the serious Grand Canyon. Medusa and the others approached the canyon and saw at least a few hundred disciples of the serious sect stationed at the checkpoint. They looked at each other and quietly appeared. Their daggers pierced through the minds of the disciples and killed their souls. Yen Yunbei and the others displayed their assassination skills and stealth skills to the extreme. A cold light flashed and killed a person. No matter if it was a great emperor or a venerable sovereign, no one survived. 300 disciples of the serious sect and 2 venerable sovereigns died quietly and became food for the star-twisting vines. The withered bodies were destroyed by Yi Qinghan. The crowd once again rushed to the major territories of the serious sect. The insane sect wanted to eliminate all the external forces of the serious sect. That night, the smell of blood filled the entire territory of the serious sect. It was easy for the great priests to assassinate them without alerting the headquarters of the serious sect. Even the officials of the Xianyue County did not dare to do so, but the insane sect dared. As long as the insane sect crushed the serious sect, the remaining 5 forces would have to think twice if they wanted to go against the insane sect. There were more than 300 branches and 6 territories with mineral resources. After 6 hours, there was not even a shadow. Only the willow leaves swayed under the moonlight. It was so quiet that it was creepy. Yi Qinghan took away a large amount of resources that had been mined. There was also a very small divine essence mine. It was considered good if one could mine 100 divine essences in a year, and the quality was very low. However, to the major forces of Xianyue County, this was an immeasurable amount of wealth. There were still more than 10 divine essences that had not been delivered to the serious sect. All of them went to Yi Qinghan. After taking away the divine essences, Yi Qinghan saw that the crowd was getting more and more excited. He smiled and said hoarsely, "Let's go to the headquarters of the serious sect." The group swallowed a large number of divine pills and elixirs to recover their strength. They were preparing for a shocking attack. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, Yen Yunbei and the great priests led the way. The spies fell one after another. They died quietly without alerting anyone. If they encountered ordinary adventurers, they would knock them out and put them to sleep. Today's battle was to be kept a secret. After they succeeded, the insane sect would be able to rise to power. The heavenly Qilin was so excited that it stamped its feet. It was as fast as lightning, like a white light that streaked across the sky. It had received Yi Qinghan's promise that no matter how many great priests it killed, the divine essences would all belong to it. If it could not kill one, it would be left with nothing in the end. The divine bird said a few more words, and the heavenly Qilin was already impatient. The divine bird transformed into a firebird and squatted on Emperor Ye's shoulder. It was very obedient, but at this moment it also wanted to make a contribution. If it killed the great priests, the divine essences would belong to it. This kind of good thing was not available in other sections. The insane sect was unique. Chapter 5:12. By the time the crazy sect had dealt with all the external forces of the heavenly wolf sect, it was already early in the morning. Most of the powerhouses had already gone into seclusion to rest. The ordinary disciples had also gone into hibernation mode. Even the guards were particularly lax. As one of the 6 major forces, the heavenly wolf sect was used to being powerful. No one had attacked the main sect for thousands of years. In their opinion, it did not matter if they had to defend themselves or not. Normally, they would not even be willing to activate the protective formation as they thought it was purely a waste of resources. The Heavenly Wolf sect was a large sect and didn't want to waste unnecessary resources. As a result, when Yi Qinghan and the others entered the sect, They didn't waste any time. The guards outside died without a sound, not even leaving behind a corpse. Gu Qingyu and the others stayed outside with a large group of powerhouses, waiting for the battle between the gods. Yi Qinghan released the star-entangling vine and the little golden crow, signaling them to be quiet. Once the gods noticed, the little golden crow would immediately set fire to the sect, and the star-entangling vine would be responsible for killing them. Medusa quietly appeared outside the Heavenly Wolf Pavilion and floated to the 9th floor. Emperor Yi followed closely and entered the 5th floor. The 5th floor was where the Great Elder cultivated in seclusion. The rest of the elders were scattered around. The Heavenly Qilin was in charge of passing down the swords. He bypassed the guards and went straight to the sword pavilion. The others had their own task. Xian Lang and the Divine Sparrow were not strong enough to assassinate the gods. They could only hide at the side and wait for Medusa and the others to succeed before starting the battle. Yi Qinghan was in charge of Wolf Shursan. At this moment, he restrained his aura and stared at a courtyard halfway up the mountain. There was a strong divine aura there. Obviously, there was a god in charge. Medusa closed her eyes and broke through Yi Qinghan's 5 element. She wanted to use all her strength to suppress the Heavenly Wolf sect leader. She could fight with a mid-level god, but she did not care about the lower-level gods in the Heavenly Wolf sect. There were 9 layers of barriers and ripples of light. Anyone who approached the matrix would awaken the sect master of the Heavenly Wolf sect. At this moment, he was cultivating the Heavenly Wolf art in seclusion. He did not sense that Emperor Yi and Medusa had entered the Heavenly Wolf Pavilion. The Great Elder was the same. He occupied the 5th floor, and the lower floors were guarded by guards. Furthermore, they were located deep within the Heavenly Wolf sect, so their defenses were extremely lax. Emperor Ye's oneness of heaven and man was in harmony with the world. He reached out and touched the boundary, and he passed through it without disturbing the boundary formation. It was as easy as Divine Lord Xian entering the insane sect. It was even easier than Divine Lord Xian. The Great Elder sat cross-legged on the bed. Divine light radiated from his body and his eyes were closed. He didn't even notice Emperor Yi appearing in front of him. Emperor Yi summoned the human emperor's zither. He held it tightly in his left hand and raised his right hand. With a sudden burst of strength, the sound of the bell shattered the space and rushed towards the Grand Elder's sea of consciousness with a destructive killing intent. Boom! The Great Elder's mind exploded, and his soul was on the verge of dispersing. His godhead trembled and his body withered. He opened his eyes, and blood flowed out of his 7 orifices as he stared at Emperor Yi in shock. Before he could retaliate, Emperor Ye's 10 fingers plucked the zither's 9 strings, and terrifying waves of godforce burst out. The zither was silent, and the zither's music blasted into the Great Elder's godhead. Kacha! The Great Elder's godhead shattered, and horrifying cracks appeared. Once the Great Elder's godhead cracked, he couldn't use his godforce at all. His soul withered, and he couldn't retaliate at all. He opened his mouth to beg for mercy, but Emperor Yi showed no mercy. He plucked a string, and it turned into a sound blade, and directly cut the Great Elder's throat. The Great Elder's body was split into 2, and he fell onto the bed. The Great Elder's body was still alive. As long as the Great Elder's godhead wasn't completely destroyed, he wouldn't die completely unless he killed all the souls inside the Great Elder's godhead. Emperor Yi slapped with a palm that contained destructive power, erasing the vitality of the Great Elder's body and suppressing the souls inside the Great Elder's godhead. Unfortunately, the Great Elder's godhead was shattered, and the essence it contained was less than 10%. It was a waste. Emperor Yi put away the Great Elder's godhead, turned around and left. Medusa didn't enter the 9th floor. She couldn't achieve oneness of heaven and man. Although she entered the room, she alarmed the Sirius clan leader. Medusa suddenly opened her eyes and unleashed all of her power. The entire room was petrified. The Sirius clan leader was shocked. He unleashed all of his god force, trying to block the green light from her eyes. However, even his god force was petrified. Starting from his head, it gradually spread to his chest, waist, and finally, his entire leg. His god force dissipated, and the soul inside the great elder's godhead was terrified. He wanted to contact his physical body, but he couldn't. Boom! Medusa made a forceful move, shattering the petrified body and forcibly grabbing the great elder's godhead. "Senior, please spare my life. I have no grudge against you." The Sirius clan leader's soul inside the great elder's godhead didn't dare to move. He only begged Medusa to spare his life. The great elder's godhead and soul were still intact, and he could still rebuild his divine body. However, if his soul was suppressed by Medusa, there would be no more chances. "It's enough that you have a grudge against Kwangzong." Medusa's eyes flashed coldly, and she immediately sealed the great elder's godhead. It would take time to kill the soul inside, and she didn't want to waste it here. After imprisoning the Sirius clan leader, she turned around and walked down. Both of them succeeded at the same time. Before the heavenly Qilin could make a move, Emperor Yi and Medusa had already rushed to the other two places. Yi Qinghan was overjoyed. After getting rid of 2 more priests, they could attack aggressively. Kwangzong had no worries. Tonight's battle would definitely be a complete victory. Emperor Yi and Medusa entered 2 courtyards at the same time. Medusa forcefully suppressed a god shrine. However, Emperor Ye's luck was very bad. After she entered the courtyard, she just so happened to come face to face with the god shrine inside. Suddenly, an earth-shattering great matrix was created. The entire mountain was shattered, and the surroundings were alarmed. Boom! The heavenly Qilin hid behind the mountain, waiting for the chosen priest. As soon as the priest appeared, he saw a flash of white light in front of his eyes. It was as if his chest was struck by lightning, and his divine body was crushed. His body crashed into the room, and the room collapsed. A priest was knocked down by the heavenly Qilin's hoof. He spat out a mouthful of essence blood and fainted. The heavenly Qilin raised its front hooves and roared. It excitedly rushed into the room, and when it saw that the godhead was separated from the body, it swallowed it. Another priest died on the spot. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, boom boom boom. The heavenly wolf sect shone brightly. 4 priests died and only 5 remained. 3 of them were held back by Emperor Yi, Xianlang, and the divine sparrow. Wolf Shursen rushed out of the room and shouted, "What happened, hum?" Yi Qinghan violently attacked, and with a sweep of his blade, he almost cut through the void. He ruthlessly attacked Wolf Shursan. "It's you again, you bastard!" Wolf Shursan was furious. He looked around and saw that 2 divine beasts and 3 priests had appeared in the heavenly wolf sect. He couldn't help but be shocked. "Where is the clan leader? Come out quickly!" Pucci. Facing Yi Qinghan, Wolf Shursan didn't care about what was behind him. Medusa's jade-like hand pierced through his divine body and grabbed his godhead. Wolf Shursan was horrified to find that he couldn't use his divine power anymore. Die. 5 elements as one. / Whoosh. The blade pierced through the void and rushed into the clouds, colliding with the falling body of Wolf Shursan. The divine longsword blocked Yi Qinghan's attack, but it couldn't stop Yi Qinghan's explosive attack. In an instant, he slashed hundreds of times and dismembered Wolf Shursan's body. With another priest gone, there were still 4 priests left, and the insane sect now had 6. Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi joined forces and engaged in a terrifying battle with that priest. Emperor Yi was responsible for attacking the soul, while Yi Qinghan was responsible for attacking the body. They flew in the sky and burrowed into the ground, shocking thousands of miles away. However, they didn't alert the other forces. Those below the level of priests couldn't fly, but they couldn't target Yi Qinghan. He merged with the god-slaying eagle armor, and with a flap of his wings, the space fluctuated. Hum hum hum, the sound of the zither, the blade and the sword collided with each other, piercing through the hearts and souls of the heroes. The Heavenly Wolf sect was in chaos. Many disciples were killed by the vibrations, and those who survived were severely injured. A large number of experts rushed out of their houses, creating a chaotic scene. Whoosh! Little Golden Crow spat out a mouthful of fire, and its body was like a scorching sun. The 9th rank flame bordered the outer sect, and more than half of the Heavenly Wolf sect's property was set ablaze. Ah! Everyone screamed. The great emperor couldn't extinguish the 9th rank flame in a short time. His body was burned and festered. Whoosh! 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 The star-twining vine waved its hundreds of thousands of vines, killing anyone it saw. It quickly devoured the vitality of the heroes, and countless corpses were turned into dried corpses. They were thrown into the fire and burned into nothingness. In an instant, the star-twining vine had entangled more than 20,000 ordinary disciples of the Heavenly Wolf sect, as well as some tamed ferocious beasts. They were all turned into its food. The star-twining vine was a divine object. It was difficult to find in the world, and not many people could raise it. Therefore, it was the special pet of the priest. It was terrifying to the extreme. Each vine was equivalent to a great emperor, and the main vine could even wrap around a venerable sovereign. Little Jia and the others assisted from the periphery and began the cruelest hunting operation. The Heavenly Wolf sect paid a heavy price for their foolish actions. Countless people wailed and begged the sect master to appear. However, they didn't know that their sect master had already been captured. At this time, he couldn't even protect himself, let alone appear to save the Heavenly Wolf sect. The celestial Qilin was as fast as lightning, blocking the path of a deity who was trying to escape. It kicked the deity's back with its front hooves, sending him crashing down the cliff. The divine sparrow assisted from the side, tearing the deity's godhead apart. The deity wanted to break through the void to escape, but he was kicked away by the celestial Qilin. His soul was scattered and he lost his mind. The divine sparrow opened its mouth and swallowed him. The celestial Qilin was furious and wanted to crush the divine sparrow. The divine sparrow knew that it was in the wrong, so it hurriedly fled to Renhuang Ye's side. They began to work together to surround the elite from the divine shrine. The elite from the divine shrine was already suppressed by Yi Qinghan and Renhuang Yi. Now, he suddenly felt powerless and was extremely shocked. "I'm Shuoyang, and I'm just a guest of the Heavenly Wolf sect. Elder Qing, please spare my life. I'm willing to serve you." The old man was terrified and no longer attacked. He could only passively defend and dodge. Yi Qinghan sneered. The arrogant sect didn't want such a person. It wasn't that he wasn't strong enough, but that as a guest, he didn't even have the slightest bit of sincerity. When faced with danger, he wanted to betray them. How could they let such a person join the arrogant sect? Boom! Emperor Yi answered him with violence. The sound of the guqin spread out and turned into countless sound blades that surrounded the old man. Yi Qinghan took the opportunity to attack. He slashed down from the sky and split the old man's divine body. Chapter 5:13. A blade fell from the sky and split the priest's body into two. Emperor Yi attacked his soul and suppressed his divinity. He was captured by Yi Qinghan. Out of the 9 priests, only 3 were left. However, Medusa dealt with another one. His divinity was suppressed, and the other 2 were surrounded by other experts. Xian Leng fought like a madman. This was his last chance. If he waited until Medusa and Emperor Yi recovered, he would not have another chance. The priest was suppressed to the point that he could not breathe. He could not escape or fight, so he knelt and begged for mercy. He was willing to submit to the insane sect. Yi Qinghan said coldly, "Kill!" Boom! Xian Lang bluntly pierced his head and took the opportunity to steal his divinity. Only the last priest was left. Seeing that Yi Qinghan did not accept captives, he roared ferociously, "Let me go, or I'll self-destruct. If I don't live, you won't live either." The self-destruction of a priest could affect an area of 1,000 miles. Moreover, this was the effect of the mythical realm. If it was in the endless realms, it could affect an entire region. Yi Qinghan and the others surrounded the priest. They looked at him and sneered. 6 against 1, and he still wanted to self-destruct? Self-destruction required time. With Medusa and Emperor Yi here, he would not have the chance to self-destruct. Outside, the star-entangling vine was killing in all directions. Countless vines wrapped around the sky and covered the sun. Most of the outer sect of the Heavenly Wolf sect died under its vines. The weak screams and wails were filled with despair. They could not block the star-entangling vines' killing move. Their bodies were penetrated and sucked dry in an instant. The star-entangling vines turned red. Its main body shouted excitedly as it devoured the vitality of tens of thousands of people. They were all at the level of quasi-emperors and great emperors. There were also a few emperors. The energy contained in these people was unimaginable. However, to the star-entangling vine, it was nothing. Even after eating so much, the star-twining vine showed no signs of evolving. It was like a bottomless pit. No wonder it was said to be the exclusive pet of the god. Ordinary people would not be able to revive it. Gu Qingyu and the others stood guard outside the Heavenly Wolf sect, but they were only able to intercept a few hundred people. The others were unable to charge out of the Heavenly Wolf sect. They were either burned to death or killed by the star-twisting vines. There was even a group of people who were directly killed by the shockwaves of the divine battle, dying without a complete corpse. In a single night, the Heavenly Wolf sect was in a complete mess. The fire outside was still burning, and the flames soared into the sky. The temperature in the surroundings was enough to melt imperial weapons. Emperor Ye's attack on his soul stunned him for half a breath's worth of time, and the celestial Qilin kicked him away. Before he could react, Medusa's hand pierced through his chest, Xian Lang's sword pierced through his psyche ocean, and the divine sparrow tore his body apart with its sharp claws. His godhead fell out and was fought over by the 5 priests. The godhead was imprisoned in mid-air, and no matter how hard it struggled, it couldn't move an inch. The 5 priests were unwilling to let go, and the godhead was almost torn apart. The godhead was almost torn apart, and the godhead was almost scared to death. Yi Qinghan looked at the 5 priests. Emperor Yi and Medusa were fine, but the others could not be persuaded at all. This, that. Why don't you all let me have the godhead? Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly and looked at Xian Lang, the celestial Qilin, and the divine sparrow. However, they were unwilling to give him face. The godhead was the most precious thing in the mythological realm. Who would be willing to let it go? This divine bird announces, "This godhead belongs to me. No one is allowed to fight over it. I will bring you to the Heavenly Wolf sect's treasure later. Be obedient and listen to me." The Heavenly Wolf sect has existed for tens of thousands of years. How could it not have a foundation? Why should we fall out over a godhead? The divine bird said solemnly. The celestial Qilin seemed to know how powerful the divine bird was. It nodded and decided to let go. Xian Lang's fingertips trembled. He did not want to offend Yi Qinghan's spirit-devouring godly eagle, so he also nodded in agreement. As for the divine sparrow, it obeyed Emperor Ye's orders and also chose to let go. The divine bird swooped down and hugged the godhead to Yi Qinghan's side. It said flatteringly, "Help this divine bird kill the soul in the godhead. I will refine this godhead and be able to ascend to the 10th grade." Yi Qinghan shook his head. He did not have the ability to kill the godhead soul. He gestured with his mouth to ask the divine bird to look for Emperor Yi. The divine bird turned and flew toward Emperor Yi. Its flattering look made one want to trample it under their feet. Yi Qinghan could not be bothered to look at the divine bird's flattering look. He turned and walked toward the periphery. When he saw that the star-twisting vine and the golden crow had taken care of most of the periphery, he summoned the golden crow back. This fellow was too powerful. No one dared to come within 1,000 meters of it. Release those who are below the great emperor realm and have not committed any crimes. Kill the rest, Yi Qinghan said calmly. Ruthless. Xian Lang had been in the mythical realm for so long, but this was the first time he had seen such a ruthless person. Not even Divine Lord Mystic could do something like this. Xian Lang took a deep breath and looked at Yi Qinghan. He understood that there were only two outcomes for going against Yi Qinghan. One was to suppress Yi Qinghan or be suppressed by Yi Qinghan. There was no other outcome. The people of the insane sect began to harvest lives. Yi Qinghan led a few godheads and rushed toward the heavenly wolf sect's treasure under the divine bird's lead. After tens of thousands of years of accumulation, this wealth was enough to build a huge sect. Yi Qinghan looked at the treasure trove full of top-grade spiritual crystals and tens of thousands of substandard divine crystals. His face was full of smiles. The insane sect had just been built and needed this wealth. There were many divine medicines, divine pills, weapons, and even divine weapons. The only thing missing was a sword. Yi Qinghan felt that it was a pity. After all, he needed to upgrade the insane sect to a divine weapon. Yi Qinghan gave one each to Xian Lang, the celestial Qilin, and the divine sparrow. Renhuang Yi kept the rest of the elixirs. The crazy sect was just starting out, so they needed a lot of elixirs. However, everyone knew that the crazy sect did not need elixirs at all. They needed elixirs at the imperial level. However, Xian Lang was not going to give himself up to Yi Qinghan. He could only accept it silently. He had already gained a lot today. A divine lattice. Emperor Yi took away all the imperial pills and divine medicines. He did not give anyone else a chance. There were 3 sets of defensive divine weapons. One of them was a dress. It looked ordinary, but Yi Qinghan could not break it even when he used all his strength. Emperor Yi gave it to Medusa, but Medusa gave it to Emperor Yi. This is a black dress. It was a defensive dress worn by Fairy Yuxian in ancient times. After her death, the black dress had been hidden away. It appeared in an auction house 500 years ago and was bought by the Heavenly Wolf sect. It has not appeared in the world since then. It can defend against the full-force attack of a lesser divine priest. It is very suitable for fellow Taoist Emperor Yi, Xian Lang explained in a low voice, as if he was very familiar with it. Little sister, you should wear it. With my physical body, a lesser god cannot harm me, Medusa said firmly. Yi Qinghan also nodded. Emperor Yi was an expert in the soul. His physical defense was very ordinary. With this divine weapon, there were not many lesser god priests that could hurt her. At the very least, profound divine sovereign would not be able to hurt her. This dark sky sword is one of the 10 most famous swords in the divine cleansing estate. It is ranked 10th and has 50% of its owner's divine power. Its power is limitless. Unfortunately, it chooses its owner. Most people will not be recognized by it. The Heavenly Wolf sect has had it for so many years, but has never used it because it does not cooperate. Xian Lang's eyes were shining. He wanted to see if he could subdue the dark sky sword. However, from Yi Qinghan's words, that was impossible. Yi Qinghan reached out to touch the dark sky sword, but was repelled by a wave of divine power. He could not even hold it, let alone use it. Let's bring it back. I wonder if Qingyu and the other sword experts can subdue it. Yi Qinghan looked at Medusa. He guessed that she was the only one who could suppress the dark sky sword. Medusa used all her strength to forcefully put the dark sky sword into her yin-yang ring. She could not use the dark sky sword as its resistance was very strong. Everyone looked at the last divine weapon. It was actually a black whip. No one knew where it came from. I heard that it is called the deicide whip. It can shatter a godhead and forcefully suppress the soul within it. However, no one has seen how strong it is. It seems that this thing can also recognize its owner. If it doesn't, it can only be an ordinary divine whip. It's not very useful. It has been tens of thousands of years, and no one has been able to use its power. Even if it were to be auctioned, the lesser god priests might not be able to buy it. Yi Qinghan reached out to touch the deicide whip. A ruthless and destructive aura rushed into his body, targeting his godhead. The divine power in his body was instantly sucked away, causing him to hurriedly withdraw his hand and retreat a few steps. He said in shock, "How can this thing devour divine power?" Medusa frowned and thought about the legends of the deicide whip. She said in a low voice, "This is not a lesser god weapon. It is a top-grade medium god weapon. This thing is controlled by a medium god and disappeared 1,000,000 years ago." However, Xianlang is correct. It is indeed called the deicide whip. Not only can it devour an enemy's godhead, but it can also devour its owner's godhead. Without the strength of a medium god, I advise you not to touch it. Then can you use it? Yi Qinghan replied. It was too wasteful to leave such a treasure in the treasury. Medusa shook her head and replied, "This kind of divine weapon will hurt you as much as it hurts you. My divine power won't be able to support it for long. However, I can keep it for now. It will be useful in the future." Medusa took the deicide whip. Other than powerful divine arts, the rest of the treasures were secret arts and divine art. Most of them were secret arts and divine arts. Most of them were secret arts that were not considered divine arts. However, to Xianlang and the others, these were already good secret arts. Each of you can pick one and move the rest to the insane faction. Yi Qinghan grinned. He was a miser who would take advantage of any opportunity. For the sake of the insane faction's development, he was willing to give up his bottom line and principles. The celestial Qilin and the divine sparrow began to pick. Xianlang picked again and again. There were a few books that he loved so much that he could not put them down. However, Yi Qinghan only allowed him to take one. In the end, he had no choice but to choose the divine art that was most suitable for him. It was almost dawn when Yi Qinghan and the others emptied the Heavenly Wolf sect. Fortunately, Emperor Ye's Qianquan ring was very spacious. Otherwise, they would not have been able to store everything. Chapter 5:14. While the sky was still dark, Yi Qinghan and the rest rushed back and asked Xianlang to inform Divine Lord Mystic to send troops to take over the Sky Wolf sect's territory. It was not easy to conquer this place. They could not just hand it over to the other 5 families and sects. When Divine Lord Mystic saw the message, her hand trembled and she almost threw the communication talisman away. The Sky Wolf sect, one of the top 3 among the 6 major forces, was slaughtered by the insane sect overnight. Sovereign God Xian sucked in a breath of cold air, but quickly reacted. The Heavenly Wolf sect's territory occupied 1/10 of the Black Moon County's land. It had a large population and hundreds of small cities. This was a big fat piece of meat. Ha ha ha, this investment was worth it. I just gave them the Western Canyon Mountain, and now they're giving me the Sky Wolf sect. Divine Lord Mystic sent 3 priests to lead the army to the Sky Wolf sect. At this moment, Yi Qinghan and the rest returned to the insane sect under the cover of the night. The next day, the Sky Wolf sect's change of ownership shocked all the forces in Xianyue County. The 5 major forces were furious. They questioned Divine Lord Mystic and demanded an explanation from her. Divine Lord Mystic sneered. Only 5 of the 6 major forces were left, but she had the insane sect on her side. If she was not worried about the chaos in Xianyue County, she would have fought the 5 major forces to the death and completely unify Xianyue County. I didn't destroy the Sky Wolf sect. I don't have the ability to destroy the Sky Wolf sect overnight without alerting anyone. If you want to die, I don't mind destroying all of you too. Divine Lord Mystic said coldly. The Divine Dragon sect and the Sky Wolf sect had the best relationship. Long Chu of the Divine Dragon sect glared at Divine Lord Mystic and asked indifferently, "Other than you, who else can destroy the Sky Wolf sect overnight and hand over the territory to you?" Divine Lord Mystic sneered and said disdainfully, "The Sky Wolf sect is courting death. Of all the people they could provoke, they chose to provoke the insane sect. Since I'm willing to hand over the Western Canyon Mountain to them, do you think I'm a fool? They built their own sect, but you blocked all the roads to the Western Canyon Mountain. Aren't you courting death?" Shock and disbelief were written all over everyone's faces. Emperor Yi was a high god priest with a heavenly soul godhead. He was indeed terrifying, but could he defeat 9 high god priests by himself? The leader of the wolf sect was an existence equal to them. That's impossible. Yi Liangchen's face was filled with doubt. Divine Lord Xian's words might as well have been a meteorite that fell from the sky and smashed the Sky Wolf sect's experts to death. Impossible? You sent 6 priests to encircle and annihilate the Kuang Zone. At that time, Renhuang Yi was not in the sect. Do you think that it is impossible for 5 of the 6 priests to die tragically and 1 to escape in a sorry state? Didn't it still happen? Supreme God Xian sneered. Yi Liangchen and the others swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Suddenly, they had a bad feeling in their hearts. They looked at each other and realized that they had underestimated Yi Qinghan and the crazy sect. Whoosh, the 5 great martial artists all rushed towards Kuang Zone. Senior God Xian was shocked and chased after them. Soon, a piece of news spread all over the place. The Sky Wolf sect was wiped out overnight. It was Kuangzong who did it, not Supreme God Xian. Many people did not want to join Kuangzong. At this moment, Kuangzong became popular and could not wait to pass the assessment. The elites of the major forces rushed towards Kuangzong. No one could stop them. Even the Mu clan, an affiliated school of Tian-Ke Theological Academy, was not as lively as this. After all, the Mu clan wanted absolute elites. Ordinary people would not be able to get in. Outside Kuangzong, the 5 high god priests arrived. They were not ordinary high god priests. They were all masters of their families. If they joined forces, Medusa would not be able to win unless she used her peak combat power. The Blood Moon Divine Guards were shocked. They thought that they were going to attack Kuangzong. "I am Yi Liangchen, the head of the Yi family. I am here to visit Kuangzong. I am Shangguan Ao, the head of the Shangguan family. I am here to visit Kuangzong." The attitude of the 5 great martial artists was surprisingly good. They did not look like they were here to pick a fight. Instead, they looked like they were here to sincerely apologize. Yi Qinghan, Emperor Yi, and Medusa personally came out to greet them. After all, they were the 5 great forces. If they joined forces, even Supreme God Xian would have to give them some face. Furthermore, Kuangzong had just started and needed time. There was no need to fight with this group of people. "Greetings, my friends." Yi Qinghan was gentle and elegant. He was not as cold and ruthless as he was yesterday. Shangguan Ao and the others looked at each other in dismay. They wondered if Yi Qinghan really had the ability to lead these people from the crazy sect to quietly destroy the Heavenly Wolf sect. Hiss, 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 the Heavenly Qilin stepped out of Kuangzong arrogantly. It looked arrogant and wanted to attack again. It kept signaling Yi Qinghan, hoping that he would give the order to attack. The 5 great martial artists stagnated and quickly took a few steps back. They looked at the Heavenly Qilin cautiously. Although they did not know what this creature was, they did not dare to treat it as an ordinary white horse. Yi Qinghan quickly signaled the divine bird to calm this guy down. The heavenly Qilin was definitely as difficult to please as the divine bird. My friend, is Sky Wolf secure? Shangguan Ao's face was pale and his white hair was messy. He did not know what to say. Oh, you're here for the Heavenly Wolf sect? That's right, the Heavenly Wolf sect blocked my path and was wiped out by us last night. Could it be that you have an eternal alliance with the Heavenly Wolf sect? Yi Qinghan calmly asked. His domineering tone caused everyone to suck in a breath of cold air. What a good sentence! You blocked my path, so we erased you. Even Supreme God Xian could not say such domineering words. Hearing Yi Qinghan's words, he could not help but recall the first time he had summoned Yi Qinghan. If he had not been curious and allowed Yi Qinghan to enter, he would have been the first one to block Yi Qinghan's path. Thinking of this sentence, they could not help but tremble. Their faces turned purple. They felt lucky and angry at the same time. It was as if Yi Qinghan had jumped on their heads and stepped on their heads. Yi Liangchen and the others looked at each other. They did not expect Yi Qinghan to answer them in such a way. My friend, please don't misunderstand. My Yi family has nothing to do with Sky Wolf sect. Yi Liangchen vowed. Shangguan Ao and the other three shook their heads and expressed that they had nothing to do with Sky Wolf sect. They even took the initiative to apologize, afraid that Yi Qinghan would treat them as a hindrance. Crazy sect has just been established. If you want to recruit disciples, please do not hesitate to choose from my Yi family's territory. I, Yi Liangchen, will do my best to help you establish your sect. Yi Liangchen stared at Yi Qinghan and said seriously. He was afraid that Yi Qinghan could not feel his sincerity. There are many geniuses in my Shangguan family's territory. Why don't you send some people to select some elite? Shangguan Ao also quickly expressed his goodwill. Ha ha ha, my friend Yi is indeed a dragon among men. When Crazy Sect was established a few days ago, I happened to be in seclusion and did not come to congratulate you personally. Today, I came to congratulate you personally. I hope you can accept this small gift for me. It can be considered as my support to Crazy Sect. Long Chu was a vigorous middle-aged man. He looked to be in his 50s, but his eyes were full of vigor. Based on his words and behavior, one could tell that he was a difficult person to deal with. The divine bird flew to Long Chu with a whoosh. It held the heaven and earth ring in its mouth and put it on its claw. It quickly said, I'm sorry for making you spend so much money. But since you've already given it to my master, wouldn't it be rude if he doesn't accept it? So, this divine bird will accept it on his behalf. The corners of the few old men's mouths twitched. They looked at the divine spirit engulfing eagle. This fellow was quite famous in the mythical realm. They couldn't help but feel a chill run down their spines when they recognized it. As the saying goes, don't slap a smiling face. Yi Qinghan saw that Long Chu was so understanding and didn't care about the difficulties he had faced a few days ago. In the mythical realm, there was no eternal hatred, only eternal benefit. In fact, this sentence was suitable for any realm. Thank you, my friend. I'll remember this favor. Yi Qinghan said lightly. The other four saw that since Long Chu had given it to them, if they didn't, wouldn't they be not giving Yi Qinghan face and looking down on him? So, the four of them each took out a heaven and earth ring. The treasures inside were the treasures they had collected. They couldn't bear to part with them, but they didn't prepare anything else. They could only take out their treasures. Yi Qinghan took advantage of them. At this time, he didn't care about anything and accepted everything. The divine bird accepted the gifts without hesitation. After accepting the four of them, it looked at Supreme Divinity Mystic and stretched out its little claw, indicating that others had already given it. How could you not give it to them? Supreme Divinity Mystic was stunned for a long time. She didn't expect this bird to be so shameless. It actually dared to take the initiative to ask for treasures from her. Poorer than them? Then forget it. The divine bird looked at Supreme Divinity Mystic and raised its head in disdain. That mocking expression was self-evident. Pfft! Emperor Yi covered his mouth and laughed secretly. Everyone was also amused by the divine bird's despicable behavior. Supreme Divinity Mystic was so angry that she laughed. She took the opportunity to find a way out and threw out a heaven and earth ring. She smiled and said, "I came in a hurry and didn't prepare in advance. There are tens of thousands of divine crystals and tens of millions of top-grade spirit crystals inside. Please accept them." Supreme Divinity Mystic didn't lose anything by giving these things. After all, they had obtained the territory of the Heavenly Wolf sect. Although the resources had been taken away by Yi Qinghan, such a large territory was still worth more than tens of thousands of divine crystals. Yi Qinghan hurriedly cupped his fists and bowed. "Thank you for your support. The insane sect has just been established and indeed needs some resources. I won't be polite. Since everyone is here, let's go in and have a chat." The divine bird had received so many heaven and earth rings, but before it could warm them up, Emperor Yi snatched them away and rewarded it with some spiritual fruits as a reward for its hard work. The heavenly Qilin couldn't help but roar. Emperor Yi also gave it some divine medicine, which it swallowed in one gulp. Emperor Yi looked at the heavenly Qilin and couldn't help but sigh. With the two bottomless pits, it and the star-twisting vine, the insane sect would be emptied sooner or later, even if it had a large territory. Everyone followed Yi Qinghan into the insane sect. Yi Qinghan set up a banquet and entertained 6 people alone. Emperor Yi and Medusa didn't sit at the table. "Brother Yi, the Mu Clan Academy's entrance exam is about to begin. I don't know if you're interested in trying. You might have a chance to enter the Tian Ke Divine Academy. Entering the Tian Ke Divine Academy and becoming a medium god is a sure thing." Supreme Divinity Mystic reminded in a deep voice. "That's right, Brother Yi. The Mu Clan Academy only recruits young elite. I think there are many elites in the insane sect. Maybe you can try your luck." Long Chu also reminded. Chapter 5:15. Xixia Mountain, Insane Sect. Yi Qinghan, Divine Lord Mystic, and 7 other experts sat around a table, eating spiritual meat and drinking spiritual wine. They chatted leisurely. Yi Qinghan had received a lot of important news. The Mu Clan Academy was a place where all the young elites in the 3,000 counties of the Mu Clan gathered. What was a young elite? They were super existences who were less than 2,000 years old and had cultivation at least at the peak of the Great Emperor realm. Those who could reach this stage were all elites, super elites. Xianyue County was considered to be in the lower middle of the 3,000 counties of the Mu clan. The 3 young elites were Xianling, Longyao, and Yi Futian from the Yi clan. However, these 3 people were not even in the middle of the Mu clan's sphere of influence. There was not much hope for them to join the Mu clan academy. Divine Lord Mystic hoped that Yi Qinghan could represent Xianyue County in the Mu clan academy's assessment. As long as Xianyue County had an elite in their sights, Xianyue County would be glorious. At least the forces in the nearby cities would not dare to attack Xianyue County. Fellow Taoist Yi, you don't know this, but the Mu clan's assessment also involves another matter. After each assessment, the Mu clan will arrange a ranking of our cities and counties according to the strength of the younger generation. The lowest ranking will be divided by the major forces every time. Thousands of years ago, our Mu clan had at least 5,000 cities and counties, but now we don't even have 3,000. In the past few hundred years, our Xianyue County hasn't produced any experts. If we're still ranked at the bottom, I'm afraid we won't have a good time in the future. The neighboring Lihua County has been eyeing our Xianyue County for a long time. I heard that God Lai Tianhe of Lihua County has already begun to break through to the medium god shrine. Divine Lord Mystic said in a deep voice. Sigh, fellow cultivator Yi, the war between cities and counties is quite cruel. For super sects or aristocratic families like us, they usually kill everyone and leave no one alive. When the time comes, I'm afraid your Kuang sect won't be able to escape the war. Long Chu also tried to persuade him. Yi Qinghan thought for a moment and did not agree immediately. He said in a serious voice, Fellow Taoists, please give me some time to consider. There are still 3 months before the assessment. I will arrange the insane sect in these 3 months. Just as everyone was trying to persuade Yi Qinghan, there was a loud noise outside. It seemed that many people had come to Xixia Mountain. Yi Qinghan hurriedly got up and walked out of the hall. He saw hundreds of thousands of ordinary people gathered outside. Most of them were below the divine martial realm. There were also some refugees, poor children, orphans, and refugees. Only then did Yi Qinghan remember that the crazy sect's rules for accepting disciples did not have the same requirements as other sections. The crazy sect only wanted disciples with a strong and stable Taoist heart and good talent. There were no restrictions on the realm, which led to the disciples of poor families who could not cultivate flocking to the sect. Divine Lord Mystic Divine Lord Astfun asked surprised. Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly. So many people had traveled a long way to get here, but only 1 in 10,000 was suitable for the mad sect. Out of these hundreds of thousands of people, it would be good if he could get 2 or 3. What about the rest? In the mythical realm, the divine martial realm or boundary emperor was no different from the mortals in the small realm. They would grow old and die. They would be devoured by wild beasts. The divine martial realm in the mythical realm was not as good as the mortals in the small realm. We want to join the insane sect. We are willing to sacrifice our lives for it. Exalted God, let our whole family join the insane sect. We are willing to worship you. Exalted God, look at my child. He has cultivated to the divine martial realm at such a young age. Do you want to take him as your last disciple? There were many ordinary people who thought that they could join the insane sect. They looked expectantly at Yi Qinghan and the others. Yi Qinghan felt his teeth ache. He took a deep breath and did not know how to respond to this group of people. Shut up, all of you. Do you think you can join the insane sect just because you want to? Long Chu scolded coldly. His divine power was vast and mighty. Instantly, countless people knelt down. They did not dare to raise their heads and speak. Xixia Mountain was silent. Yi Qinghan shook his head and said, Son, you are in charge of the assessment. If you think they are good enough, take them in. If they are not, arrange for them to be in the territory of the Sky Wolf sect. Give them some land and give them spiritual fruits, spiritual herbs, or spiritual plants. Let them cultivate on their own. Divine God Xian frowned. She did not agree with Yi Qinghan's attitude. He could not be too kind to these mortals. Qinghan, you don't understand the mythical realm. If you treat them like this, your territory will be overcrowded. Moreover, if you change your policy in the future, you will be scolded and attacked by them. Divine God Xian reminded him kindly. Yes, for these lowly people, if you treat them a little better, they will be grateful. If you give them all the benefits at once, they will not get any benefits in the future. Instead, they will be ungrateful. Long Chu and the others also reminded him. Yi Qinghan shook his head and left. He did not need to repay others, but if they angered him, he would wipe them out. Countless people were gathered outside the Western Gorge Mountain. Emperor Yi gently played the Renhuang Guqin, and in an instant, half of them were eliminated by her. When she played the Guqin again, another half fell asleep. She played the Guqin 3 times, and only 3 people were left: 2 middle-aged men and a young boy. With a firm will, Emperor Yi gently played the Emperor's guqin. The wind changed and a murderous aura filled the air. The crazy sect was besieged and the heroes were in a difficult battle. Among the 3 people, a middle-aged man and a little boy stood firmly on the crazy sect's side. The other person chose to betray the crazy sect. Emperor Ye's jade-like hand landed lightly on the Renhuang guqin. Looking at the middle-aged man's ferocious and cold face, he plucked a string, which transformed into an irresistible gust of wind, shattering all of his life force. Emperor Ye's selection of the crazy sect's disciples was so simple. There was no need to assess talent, will, or strength. You too belong to the crazy sect now. Emperor Yi looked at the excited faces of the young man and the middle-aged man in front of him. He nodded and looked at Lin Wutian. He whispered, "Little Tian, from now on, you will be in charge of the cultivation of the new disciples. Record their names and resource allocation." Lin Wutian quickly bowed and accepted the task. He took the 2 away. More and more elites began to approach Xisha Mountain. There was no lack of powerful adventurers. They even attracted a lower god's priest. These people needed to be personally assessed by Renhuang Yi, and they would be assessed individually. Renhuang Yi had the members of the Kuang sect arrange for the refugees and ordinary citizens to stay in the territory of the Celestial Wolf sect. Those who were unwilling to stay would be given 3 pieces of top-grade spirit crystals, each as travel expenses. Renhuang Yi had arranged everything and was going to test this lesser god priest. He was not considered powerful. He had obtained this divine persona by chance, which allowed his combat prowess to increase by dozens of times in an instant. Although he was a god priest, he was still far from being a true god priest. He had no divine techniques to cultivate, so he could only join a powerful clan and cultivate divine technique. Only then could he become a god priest. "My lord, my name is Shang Qing. I am willing to join the crazy sect. Please give me a chance. I will live and die with the crazy sect," the priest said respectfully to Emperor Yi. Chapter 5:16. Shang Qing was indeed not strong. He didn't have any divine arts, but he was indeed a god priest. He only lacked powerful divine arts. There were 3,000 divine arts in the mythical plane, and some lesser divine art. Mastering any one of them was enough for a divine art to dominate a region. Shang Qing looked at Emperor Yi respectfully, hoping to join the Kuang sect. Shang Qing was only about 30 years old. He was lucky enough to get the godhead. He was much luckier than Xian Nu and the others. Shang Qing looked honest, but his eyes were full of wisdom. He must be very cunning to be able to live in the mythical plane and get the godhead. Emperor Yi plucked the strings and rushed into Shang Qing's mind, making him fall into an illusion. The thoughts of the person in the illusion were definitely the most realistic thoughts. Shang Qing was indeed honest and cunning, but he had inquired about the Kuang sect. He really wanted to join and was willing to live and die together. Emperor Yi nodded and gently suppressed the music. Shang Qing's face was pale. He looked at Emperor Yi, who looked like a teenager, and took a deep breath. He was even more respectful. "The Kuangren sect welcomes you, Mr. Shang. Our Kuangren sect does not care about status, but we seek to live and die together. The Kuangren sect will provide you with some of the superpowers you require. However, powerful secret techniques require contribution points in exchange. You should understand," Renhuang Yi said in a serious tone. Shang Qing was overjoyed. Other sects required contribution points before divine arts, but the Kuang sect provided divine arts first and then required contribution points. This alone was worthy of his approval. "My friend, please follow me to the treasure library." Emperor Yi led Shang Qing into the Kuang sect and went straight to the treasure library. The treasure library was a 9-story tower. The lower 3 floors were open to anyone to find secret arts, but the middle 3 floors required great emperors and emperors to pay a certain amount of divine gems or contribution points. The upper 3 floors were all divine arts. The divine arts could be freely selected on the 7th floor, but the 8th floor required a large amount of contribution points. The 9th floor was definitely the most powerful secret arts in the Kuang sect. Emperor Yi had collected the Sirius sect, as well as the god-level secret techniques that he had obtained over the years, and sent them all into the 9-story pagoda. There was a defensive god-level array in the pagoda, and it was located in the Western Gorge Mountain. Apart from the people of the Kuang sect, no one else could enter. Below the 9-story pagoda, Emperor Yi pointed to the 7th floor and said calmly, "Daoist Shangqing, you can choose any 3 of the god-tier secret techniques on the 7th floor. Once you're done, go find Daoist Gu Qingyu and ask him to arrange a separate courtyard for you." "Thank you, Lord Emperor Yi. I wonder when I can meet Lord Grandmaster?" Shangqing asked excitedly. "When he's free, he'll naturally come and find you. Fellow Daoist Shang, there's no need to worry. I'll go and test the other disciples first. You can do as you please. Oh right, don't try to force your way into the 8th floor," Emperor Yi calmly reminded. Shangqing nodded. The crazy sect was able to reach this stage even though it had just started. It was definitely not as simple as outsiders thought. Emperor Yi continued to test the outer sect disciples. A large number of elites had gathered in the outer sect. They did not lack talent or willpower, but they lacked loyalty to the crazy sect. Not many of them were sincere. They only wanted to rely on the crazy sect or take advantage of it. Emperor Yi did not hesitate to remove those who had ulterior motives, leaving only those who truly wanted to join the crazy sect. There were about 3,000 strong cultivators. They were basically adventurers, rogue cultivators, poor disciples, and people from aristocratic families. They were all eliminated by Emperor Yi. Zhu Xiong looked at how strict Emperor Ye's test was. He could not help but feel speechless. He had no idea what kind of test procedure he followed. Many of them were considered to be first-rate talents, but they were almost killed by Emperor Yi. There were also some who seemed to be average talents, but they surprisingly joined the crazy sect. Divine Lord Xian watched for a long time. Perhaps he understood what was going on. He could not help but be impressed by Emperor Ye's powerful soul. More than 3,400 disciples built the outer sect on the Western Gorge Mountain. They did everything by themselves. A vast and huge sect appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Emperor Yi arranged uniforms for them and bestowed upon them a large number of emperor techniques, divine pills, miraculous medicines, and emperor-level divine pills. He also divided them into ranks, from the outer sect leader to the outer sect elders, deacons, and disciples. The position of the outer sect master was obviously controlled by the inner sect disciples. Yi Qinghan was a hands-off manager. Emperor Yi did not want to interfere, so he threw the position of the outer sect master to Lin Wutian. In the inner sect of the crazy sect, Yi Qinghan sent off the sect masters and family heads of the major forces. He gathered everyone in the crazy sect and placed the Tian Yu godly sword on the table in the main hall. He said excitedly, "Come, brothers, this Tian Yu godly sword belongs to whoever subdues it." Gu Qingyu and the others' pupils shrank. They were so excited that they could not wait to rush up and try. This was a divine weapon that was rarely seen in 10,000 years. This is the Nethersky Divine Sword, one of the top 10 lesser divine swords within the divine cleansing estate. It has the ability to choose its own master, so it won't recognize an ordinary person. Yi Qinghan explained. "Let me try." Gu Qingyu clenched his fist. The Tianwu battle sword could no longer satisfy him. He only wanted the Tian Yu godly sword now. Shua. Gu Qingyu grabbed the Tian Yu godly sword. The Tianyu godly sword shone brightly, and a terrifying rebounding force sent Gu Qingyu flying back several hundred steps before stopping. Even with Gu Qingyu's understanding of the sword, he was still sent flying. One could see how terrifying the Tianyu godly sword's requirements were. Yi Qinghan bit his lips. He did not expect Gu Qingyu to fail. "Let me try." Zetian also rushed over, but he was still sent flying. The Tianyu godly sword did not recognize them at all. Yang Shaohan, Nangong Xiaobei, Muyo Tianchen, and the others all failed. Xia Chiyue and Xia Ziluo both tried, but they were all sent flying by the Tianyu godly sword. As far as I know, this kind of sword requires the wielder to have a grand heart and grasp the sky. Ordinary people cannot control it at all unless their cultivation reaches the peak of the divine cleansing realm and can forcibly suppress the Tianyu godly sword. Medusa faintly reminded. Seeing that such a powerful divine weapon could not be used, the experts felt it was a pity. At this moment, little Jia suddenly rushed over, holding the Tianyu godly sword and rushing out of the Kuang sect. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Divine light erupted between heaven and earth, filling the sky. The sword turned into a long river, illuminating space and time. The Tianyu godly sword appeared, shattering the void. Yi Qinghan and the others did not expect that everyone would fail. They were actually conquered by little Jia, who had just broken into the great emperor realm. Good! Yi Qinghan was overjoyed and could not help but clap his hands. Emperor Yi walked over and said to Yi Qinghan, "Master, there are more than 3,000 disciples in the outer sect, and there is one divine cleansing elder. Master, do you want to invite him over to take a look?" Yi Qinghan shook his head and said in a low voice, "The Kuang sect has to speed up and save on mortal etiquette. Strive to form a fighting force within 3 months. 3 months? Isn't that too fast?" Emperor Yi asked with a frown. "It's not fast. The Mu Clan Academy's examination is in 3 months. If I participate in the examination, the sect will have no power to defend. How can we leave?" Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed. He had already decided to participate in the Mu Clan's examination. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.